Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Dear viewers of Concerned Citizen of South Sudan, greetings and salutation to all of you. We are live from Washington, Seattle, as usual, this Saturday, which is March 13, 2021. My guest speaker today in this interview is going to be Dr. Biar Ajak, an economist, political activist, and a young aspiring South Sudanese leader. Dr. Biar Ajak obtained his doctorate degree in October last year at the University of Cambridge in political and international studies. I shall discuss with him today the topic we have posted 2 days ago, the current fiasco in the country and the way toward establishment of new political paradigm shift in South Sudan. You are all aware of the status quo in our country. The country is in a total mess, politically and economically. No liberty, justice, peace, and prosperity. Our hopes are blasted and our dreams are shattered by the liberation leaders who become the antithesis of building a progressive and democratic society in South Sudan. Because of this situation, we are in need of a new way beyond this darkness, which has lasted for decades of political nightmare. Economic meltdown, corruption, lack of basic services, insecurity, lack of clear political vision, and senseless, endless war. Tonight, as I said, I welcome Dr. Biar Ajak to this live broadcast. Concerned Citizen of South Sudan, it's honored to have you today as a nationalist and a young aspiring South Sudanese leader. But before we proceed to discuss the topic tonight, I would like to give Dr. Biar Ajak 2 or 3 minutes to go ahead and greet our viewers. Dr. Biar Ajak, I know you are here on the studio with us tonight. I welcome you to this humble platform. I want you to greet our viewers before we start. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Comrade Jonko Rumayol, for inviting me today to be a guest on this very important topic. Let me start by greeting our people, those who are here with us in the United States, those in Canada, in Australia, in Europe, and those who are in South Sudan, who are suffering every day and night, who are going to bed with empty stomach, who are unsure of their security, not knowing whether they will make it to the morning. I thank each and every one of them, and particularly because those who are watching this program are those who are interested in the affairs of our country. And I thank them for taking that interest, because sometimes things may appear as if the situation is hopeless. But with our people engaged and them interested in discourses such as these, we show that there is hope for our people. So I greet them, I salute them, and I thank them for joining in. And I ask them that they approach this discussion with an open mind, because if we aspire to build a better future for ourselves and our society, we must be able to hear one another and consider what each other is saying, and then debate so that we come to a consensus and a conclusion. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to engaging with you.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, for the kind words and greeting our viewers. Again, we always, from the beginning, we make it clear to our viewers that we do not tolerate any insult, which is attack, foul languages in this humble program. It's not accepted here. We agree to disagree, and that's fine. And thank you for bringing that up as well. We should debate in a good manner here. To start with, Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, you were arrested and detained in Blue House in Juba with the late leader of 7 October movement, Carbino Wala Gongwal. Could you please tell us why were you arrested and detained?
Well, let me start by giving you a bit of the background of things that happened before I was arrested. As you know, Jonkor, I was fortunate to be one of the lost boys that found refuge here in the United States. I came here as an underage in 2001, and I was blessed to have opportunity to go to school, and then from there finish my university and my graduate school. And I was one of the very first people to return to South Sudan. I went in 2006 because in 2006 I was studying in Egypt as an exchange student at the American University in Cairo. And at the time, I arrived in Cairo actually just in December 2005, just before, just after the incident that happened in Mohandesin, at the park in the Mohandesin happened, where a lot of South Sudanese were killed by Egyptians. And there was a lot of mess, there was a lot of fear within the community. And it was really among the first events in my life that got me again to be re-engaged with our people in Cairo. And we came up with some programs to engage them at the American University in Cairo, teaching them basic English, and also working with a group of lawyers, some of whom were my friends, to follow some of the cases of people that had been detained and were in different prisons across Egypt. So through that, I developed interest again back in our country, and I visited. I visited New Site, and then from New Site, I went to Juba. It was amazing to see the hopes in the eyes of our people after the CPA return. The expectations were so high. Our people were so excited that the vision that they had been fighting for so long was finally here. So when I returned back to Egypt and then later on to America, when I finished my undergraduate degree, the first thing I did was return to South Sudan. So I went to work in the Ministry of Finance. And this was the time when now the government of South Sudan was building basic institutions. And soon there was a massive corruption scandal in the Ministry of Finance. So I was supposed to be an intern, but within the duration of my internship, I find myself, with serious responsibilities, including serving as the acting director of the budget in the Ministry of Finance. And I became aware of how there was very little laws that were governing the management of resources in South Sudan. There was no Public Financial Management Act. There were some regulations. There was no any Civil Service Act, so people were being hired randomly. So I started to put my foot down, and people will come to me wanting money, and I would refuse. I would ask them to show me in the budget where these things are. Afterwards, it was a very traumatic time for me. People will come to threaten me. They will go to my family, to my father, that how come Biar is making it very difficult for people to get money at the Ministry of Finance. When I realized that this was chaotic and problematic, I left. I came back to the US. I went to Harvard to do my master's degree. And then upon finishing, now I joined the World Bank. I actually wanted to join the Ministry of Finance, but people were afraid to have me be back because they know that I would not tolerate the misuse of resources by our people. And I was ready to sacrifice everything. There was one incident where somebody came, one of the generals came with guns and tried to intimidate me so that I can sign some document. And I refused. And the next day I came back with my own gun. So, they know that if I come back with the Ministry of Finance, that kind of nonsense was not going to continue. But anyway, because of lack of accommodation of people of independent will, I ended up joining the World Bank. And at the World Bank, now, again, I was advising the Ministry of Finance because that was our major client. We were implementing the Multi-Donor Trust Fund, if you remember the MDTF.
Yes.
Where there was a lot of money that were put in for the construction of South Sudan. And there was a number of different projects that I was managing. And I was trying to get the government to think around the time about how we can diversify our economy. I brought together a team of experts from Harvard University, from Oxford, to come and work with us in developing the first and probably the only growth strategy of the government of South Sudan. This growth strategy, it was a strategy on how do we use oil. This was the vision of Dr. John. If you read the SPLM strategic framework for transition from war to peace of 2004, it's very clear there. It was mapped out that we are going to use the oil as the foundation of building a diversified, people-centered economy, building agriculture in particular. And agriculture is our largest resource. We have arable land, we have the Nile. Our land, about 3/4 of our land is arable. You can plant anything in it. So we developed this strategy, but then no one was interested in implementing it. Then again, we developed the South Sudan Development Plan. I was the co-chair of one of the 4 pillars. The South Sudan Development Plan has 4 pillars. One of the pillars is economic development. And as the economist for the World Bank at the time, I was the co-chair together with the undersecretary of planning at the time, which was Agri Tisa Sabuni, who later on became Minister of Finance, and then later on as presidential advisor on economic affairs. And the development plan was very clear. It envisioned a 3-year strategy on how to really transform our society, and especially after decades of war, and invest in the aspirations of our people. I did that. Then there was also the Vision 2040. This one was now to try to imagine how a society will be by 2040, and what sort of investment do we want to make now. Again, I worked on this document with quite a large number of people from the government, from the donor community, and all of that was developed. But there's nothing that was happening, But we understand at the time what the problem was, because the focus was so much on the referendum, that we are going to have a referendum, and there was a lot of mistakes that were happening. So we were willing to look the other way because, our main objective was to ensure that we reach our independence as a country. So we could tolerate, some of the missteps as long as we deliver on the referendum itself. So referendum happened, where people voted unanimously for a new independent called South Sudan. Now, when the independence came about, I was asked by the Minister of National Security So what happened, as after we voted in January, now we had a 6-month period to transition to independent state. So a number of different committees were formed because now, within 6 months, we have to prepare to be independent country. We needed a new constitution. We needed to create some institutions that did not exist, including, for example, in the security sector, the intelligence agencies, because we had only one intelligence agency as Sudan, and that was the NIS, the National Intelligence and Security Service of Khartoum. And Majanga God at the time, Dr. Ajak, was the Deputy Director General of the NIS. And he was tasked by President Salva to begin to prepare about how are we going to create new intelligence agencies for the country. And he put together an excellent team of technocrats, people like Paul Nang, people like Bor Philip, people like Charles Church, a lot of brilliant people, Napoleon Adok, there's a lot of really high caliber cadres in South Sudan. People like Dud Abraham, for example, were part of this. And they went all over the world and they developed a wonderful document that was called the National Intelligence and Security Agency, NISA. And this document, they really developed sort of like threat analysis, the new political environment in which the new state was being formed, with the threats that it was going to face, internal threats, external threats, the regional dynamics, and how do we make sure that we position our country in a position of strength. Now, as this work was happening, the constitutional process was happening. And the constitutional process, there was a lot of different political interest in it.
Yes.
So in the end, what Ajak and his team had imagined was to form a unified intelligence agency in the form of National Intelligence and Security Agency, NISA. In the Constitution, the late John Luke, found himself as the chair of the subcommittee that was working on the constitutional section on security institution. And people that had no idea about security, like Madam Awut, find themselves as part of this committee. And then other political interests from other individuals. They end up creating a fragmented intelligence system with two agencies, the Internal Security Bureau on one hand, and the General Intelligence Bureau on the other, each of whom would have a director general. And the only way they unite is at the level of the minister.
Yeah,
this was a major mistake, and it's something that should have been realized from the very beginning. Now, what happened is, as Ajak was working with his team and we were approaching independence, people were lobbying Kir. And what Kir did was he left Ajak hanging. He dissolved some of the security organs that were in South Sudan at the time. One was the special branch. And the special branch, it was created in 2006. And the idea behind the special branch was to provide protection for President Salva and to kind of counter Sudan counterintelligence activities around our president. Because, we didn't want what happened with Dr. John to happen again with President Salva.
Correct.
At the time, there was also something called public security. People don't remember now that there was something like that. But there was something called public security. It had actually been there since the time we were in Bush. And at the time, the person that was leading it was the late General Marial Noor. And this public security used to report to the Minister of Interior. So now public security was dissolved. A special branch was dissolved. And the portion of Southern Sudanese that were part of the NIS, because remember, 30% of NIS were supposed to come from the SPLM, SPLA. So these people were recalled back, was dissolved, Ajak basically fired. And some of the senior officials, people like Walter Ngabot, who were working on establishing the new security organization, people like Marwan Alier, people like Gorgori, who were working now in imagining what would be the new security architecture of South Sudan, they were all transferred to the SPLA to create a space for very junior officials, very junior officials, So now all these people are removed on Independence Day, and I keep talking about how, for example, on how President Kiir was appointed, and people don't understand. On July 8th, when the Constitution was endorsed, one of the things that was put on the Constitution was who is going to be the President of the Republic. And it wasn't because of the elections of 2010. It was based on an agreement that the Parliament made on the 8th of January.
Correct.
Current president is going to continue, which is basically appointment, is going to continue as the president until 2015, when election will be held. And that is why the next day, he had to be sworn in again with a different oath. Not the one that he took in 2010, but an oath as a president of a new republic. That's why he was appointed. Now, after he was appointed, the first thing he did, he went to J1 and he issued a presidential degree. The first degree that Kiir issued was the appointment of Akol Okur and Thomas Dwell. Now, if you read the Constitution, Article 160, it's very, very, very clear. Yes, the president has the right to appoint the Director General. But the Constitution say the president appoint the two Director Generals after recommendation by the minister in charge. That is the Minister of National Security. And when these two gentlemen were appointed, the Minister of National Security was not even there, right? So the president appointed these people, very irregular, and that was the beginning of a country falling out of the law and not even having any sense of rule of the law, because the first thing the president did as a head of the independent state was illegal, was unlawful. So he appointed these individuals, and then a month later, when the cabinet was finally formed, the minister was appointed. Now, when the minister was appointed, he asked me. I was at the World Bank. I was doing very well as an economist. I had established my own think tank at the time. I was doing my wrestling initiative. There was a lot of activities that had me engaged. I had just created the Red Army Foundation. There's a lot of things that I was doing. But he came to me and he said, Peter, I need your help. I need you to help me in setting up intelligence agencies that will protect the ideals of our liberation struggle. So I joined the minister as a senior advisor. And when we came, Mr. Akol Okur has already established, what was funny was he had like 10 different directors reporting to him, which is from the basic 101 public administration is wrong. You cannot have 10 people report to you. You got to create a way to streamline. This is why, the organization of human being is like a pyramid. So the first thing the minister did was now to appoint a committee. He asked them, Akol and Thomas, to nominate people. Some of these same people, those of Charles Church, Bor Philip, Chris Rathon, all of them were part of my committee. And working now with me to review the structures that they had established and to come up with the better structures that can allow the institution to deliver on the mandate that has been given to it by the Constitution. Now, this is where our problem started, because we reviewed these structures and they didn't make any sense. So working with these people, we reduced the structures considerably, and we argue for a unified national security. Because first of all, there's a problem of resources. When you have one institution with two director general, each of whom has his own budget and goes directly to the Ministry of Finance to get money, who is now the accountable officer? Who is accountable? There's nobody that is accountable. Each one of them is saying he's an accountable officer. But then how do you have one institution with more than one accountable officer? It shouldn't be surprised to have now that national security is extremely corrupt, because this is something that happened before our eyes. The second thing was to come up with a doctrine of the new intelligence agencies, philosophy of operations. The philosophy of the NIS in Sudan was basically to murder people, to torture them, to illegally detain them, to protect a regime. It was a philosophy of regime security. And as independent state, this is what we were escaping when we voted to create our own country. This was what we were creating. So now we have to come up with a new doctrine, new philosophy of the new independent Republic of South Sudan.
Mhm.
And we argue this doctrine. There's a document we developed called the White Paper on Intelligence and National Security. I was the secretary of the committee that drafted this. And what we wrote in that document is very clear, that we are interested in human security, where the security of the citizen is at the heart of what the government does. And that was to be the philosophy, that the reason why these intelligence agencies are there is so that the citizen is secure, so that his rights are secure. And it's a security broadly. It's not just being free from physical harm, but having food, having health, having clean air, clean environment, clean water, having education, having a happy and prosperous society. That is what we wanted to indoctrinate into the mind of our security official. Now, when we presented this to the leadership committee, Akol didn't want to hear anything about it. He was so arrogant to the extent that even I was surprised about what was going on. And, no one wanted to stand up with him because, he's a president guy. So I stood up to him and I said, what is your problem? First of all, in the Constitution, you don't have power in policy making.
Yes.
Policy making, according to Article 160, as subsection D and E, is the prerogative of the minister. Your role is to implement the policy that the minister makes. It's not for you to then make the policy and then also implement it. It doesn't work. That is not how a government works. And he was like, well, you want to create this as a ministry. We are a service. And I was telling him, what do you mean by a service? SPLA is a service, but is under the Ministry of Defense. Police is a service, and it is under the Ministry of Interior. And they submit themselves to the Minister of Interior, the same way the SPLA submit themselves to the Minister of Defense. What is the problem with you submitting yourself to the Minister of National Security? So from there, and he's begin arresting people. So I'll go to the prison inside the Blue House. I'll find people that are detained. And I wonder, why are they detained? There was one journalist, for example, you remember the time when the president's daughter was married to the guy from Ethiopia. So he wrote something about how, Nyanabeng, and then all of a sudden, people in national security are going crazy. And then, this guy has to be detained. And then I came and asked, why is he detained? Why should he be detained? It's his opinion. Of course, it's provocative, but this is the kind of society we want to create, where people can speak what they want to speak. So from there, my brother, it became clear that Akol was sabotaging the minister. The minister then formed a committee to draft a national security policy. This was chaired by Akol Dengabod. It had Majanga Rol Kachwal from police as part of it. It has Rabi Mujang from the Ministry of Defense as part of it. It has officials, people like Charles Church and Boro Philip, and a bunch of them. Napoleon from the presidency was there. I was secretary of this committee. We traveled all over South Sudan, talking to paramount chiefs, to state governors, to state ministers, to youth and women leaders, consulting their views about how we should develop a national security policy and national security strategy. And then we came back to the national government level. We consulted with the parliament, with the judiciary, with the army. We went to the Ministry of Defense, consulted with the full command of the army, with the police, with the intelligence agencies. We did consultations everywhere. In the end, this thing was sabotaged again. It didn't go anywhere. And what we wanted to do was to create a security architecture where the mandates were very specific. Because at the time, you wanted to have the powers of the police. You want to have powers of the police so that you want to arrest people, like what he has been doing now. You want to buy tanks and artillery. And I was telling him, we have an army. This is why we have an army in the Constitution. We have the police. This is why we have the police in the Constitution. You can't just be the army and the police. Then there is no reason to have them. And with those things, he felt as if I was undermining him. So now, on the other side, at the SPLM Secretariat, there was a problem brewing between Riek and Salva Kiir because Kiir has initially signaled that he wanted to step down. He has revealed it at a meeting he had with some of the head of state that had visited, that he's going to step down.
We were hearing all these rumors, yes.
Yeah, so then everyone was like, okay, if he's going to step down, then maybe I should run to be the president. So then, not only is Riek running, but Pagan is also running, Wani is running, Mama Rebecca is running. And then he changed his mind, and he's like, he was also running, and now he want everybody to back him again. And by then, the SPLM cadres in all the different states has expressed their dissatisfaction with the SPLM, that the SPLM had failed. These were the 6 points that Dr. Riek used to talk about. Now, come July, the president fired everybody. And what people don't understand, and they will be understanding soon, is really what was the role of the national security? What was the role of Akol in leading South Sudan to the conflict? And it's something that has never been fully investigated. People talk about Jiang Council of Elders, people talk about Paul Malone and the rest of them. But what people don't talk about were the specific deliberate provocation that Akol was doing as a way of expanding the powers of the national security. Now, of course, I left. I left when minister was fired. I left. I went to the UK to start my PhD because I was not learning anything and I was not doing anything, and no one was interested anymore in my ideas. So I went and started doing my PhD. And as I did my PhD, I realized some of the fundamental problem with our politics in South Sudan.
Yes,
our politics has been governed by violence. When we were in the bush, violence was the primary tool of struggle. And we have never discussed, as children of South Sudan, what kind of society we want to build. What kind of future do we want to build? And after finishing my PhD, my determination was to create a platform where we can discuss the future we want as people of South Sudan. So we came back, I founded the South Sudan Young Leaders Forum. And we brought people together from different tribes, different factions, those with Riek, those with Wu, those with Thomas, everybody. And we brought everybody together. Those with Bokasoro and the rest of them.
Yes.
And we begin to discuss as young people, free from the toxic environment of the elders. And we came up with a platform of generational exit. That we argue that generational exit is a concept that can help this country. Because when we were in the bush, we used to talk of generations. That there was a generation of Jesh Haswat. Jesh Haswat was the one that was fighting to liberate the country. Then there was the Jesh Hammer, the Red Army. And the role of the Red Army was one day, when the SPLM is confused, they will help to take the SPLM forward. So I was arguing that the country is in a different environment that our leaders do not understand.
Yes.
They do not understand the challenges of a formative state like South Sudan. What they understand is destroying the old Sudan, using the tool of destructions and tools of war to fight for liberation. Like, he was making a comment when they were building the road from Numili, how they destroyed the bridge on Numili Road. Yes, that's what they did, destroying things. Now we needed to build things, and we needed to build our society. We need to unify our people. And because both of them are so toxic, we were arguing that there is a need for a new generation in leadership. And we took this message to our people in the rural areas, in IDP camps, in refugee camps, in foreign capitals. We went to Nairobi, to Kampala, to Addis. We sent people to Khartoum. We went to everywhere where our people were. And this message was resonating with our people. Our people love it. Yeah. This is what they wanted to hear. And I came back to Juba. I talked about it. I presented to the SPLM. There's one time I addressed the SPLM executive caucus. Abud Stephen was there. I said it, that this you people, your job is finished. It's time for us to take the party forward, to take the SPLM to the new level, and to take South Sudan to the new level. There's no reason why you should not have confidence in us. Because what we have accomplished at the age we are, when you started the SPLM when you were our age, you had not done half of what we have done.
Yes. So
you should have confidence that we as young people can take this country forward. And, because this message was resonating, I was traveling. I remember one of the most memorable experiences was when I visited Kwajok. When I visited Kwajok, I was greeted by women, the Tianasa, the women association, and and they were very happy to hear from me, by the youth, by students. We did our meeting, by the way, at the parliament in Kwajok. We did it, and then we did a football tournament in Kwajok, and our people were they're like, yes, this is what we want to hear. We want this generational exit to happen. So because now the message was going with the people, and the people loved the message, and I was talking from practical experience, having been inside the national security as one of the senior officials when the institution was formed, and having a broader experience, having been in the Ministry of Finance, having been at the World Bank. Now I was giving a comprehensive outlook of what was ailing South Sudan and a realistic solution on fixing it. Now, in July, I was traveling to Awil. We were going to do a Red Army anniversary, and we were going to talk. We were going to talk our mind. We were going to talk as Red Army, as young people, and we were going to say that his generational exit must happen. And I was also talking to the SPLA military commanders, and I was telling them, we need this generational exit. We need a peaceful exit of these people. We need an entirely new generation. And this message was also resonating within the military, even within the national security, by the way. It's only that the top leadership where they don't understand this. But the rank and file of the national security is with me on this issue. So in the end, because now they became afraid, they know that the people of South Sudan are waking up, they decided to arrest me. That is why I was arrested.
Okay. Well, Ustaz, Dr. Peter Biar, thank you for answering that question. Now, we move further. I want you to tell us more, how were you treated inside the national security in Juba?
Well, let me say, personally, as Peter Biar, no one put his hand on me. No one slapped me, no one punched me, no one beat me, none of that happened. But with that said, the prison that we were at, the Blue House, is one of the most horrific places on earth. A lot of my colleagues who were there were being tortured constantly. From 10 p.m. At night until like 5 a.m. in the morning, people are tortured. They will say, bring knife, jibu sakin, jibu magpak, jibu chakuj, jibu musumar, jibu sword. And then after 10, 15 minutes, you hear someone screaming. And you wonder now, is it the nail that they have used? Is this the chakuj? Is this the hammer? Is it the knife? And some people will be beaten, and they will be bleeding for days, and they will be prevented from leaving their cell. They will be locked inside their cell, and they will be there with their wounds. No one will even care. Some people die during these tortures. That was terrible. Visiting was not allowed. I was lucky because of being a bit high profile, but I was put in a solitary confinement. Where you don't even hear anybody's voice. The cell you are put inside, has no window, so you only take off your clothes. You just remain with an underwear. That is what you wear the whole duration. If you are sick, they don't take you anywhere. You don't even go to the hospital. It's up to you and your God to decide what will happen. If you die, there was one boy that died. It's actually one of your soldiers from national security. There's a lot of people that died, but I'm just giving this one example. I think it's called Endeng or something like that. I think it's from Awan Chanzaro. He died inside. I think he was arrested because apparently he had shot one of these senior officers or something like that. And he was put there. He died. He actually died when we were going to court. And what they did with his body was absolutely horrific. The body was just left there. When we're going to court, you have to basically walk over the body. When we came back, the body is still there. The body had to spend another night.
They use it as a scare tactic.
This is what happened. Even when you are in a cell with somebody and somebody die, they leave the dead person there with you for some time. So when your food is brought, you eat, and the dead body is there. If you go to bed, you sleep, and the person is dead, and the body is right there. To the extent that even sometimes the body smells. Yeah? There is, of course, the problem of people being disappeared from inside the prison. Night they will come, especially 11 and midnight. We used to call it the midnight pickup. What happened is that at midnight, they come, they will turn off all the light. They come holding now torches, some blankets, sticks, and tasers. And then, what happened usually, there is, in a solitary confinement, there are cells. So if, for example, you are the one to be disappeared that day, they will take you out and put you in one of those cells during the daytime. So then at the evening, they know that you are in there alone. So then now they come, they lock the door, they use the taser to knock you out, then they roll you up with a blanket, take you, put you in a car, then they take you to Luri, where now they decide what are they going to do. Are they going to shoot you? Are they going to use machetes to cut you? And then after they kill you, now what they do is they spray your body with gas and burn it. A lot of people die that way. That happens. There's the issue of sexual molestation, and I talk about this, and people think that it's something that cannot happen, but they don't understand the level to which the country has descended, the lack of even moral clarity in the minds of the leaders. And this happened not just only to men and women. And let me start first with women. It's sad because every single office at the national security has a bed in it. Every single office at the national security has a bed in it. And especially in the prison offices. So now the women have their own, there's one main room for women downstairs. They come and lock it, and then the woman is taken out, and they do whatever they want. They and then they will use, they will say, well, I'm going to talk so that you can be free, or I'm going to put in a word on your case or something like that. And and then women become desperate, because some of these people are separated from their children, or and become fearful, and then they take advantage. Some are just raped outright, and sometimes they do it as if they're joking. Like there's one time there was a son of Bolakut. I don't know, Bolakut. He's there. His son was arrested with two girls. I don't know. There was the issue of gun. He was carrying, I think, his dad's pistol or some pistol, and he was arrested with these two girls. And these two girls were brought to the prison. And then now they were joking with them. They were like saying, here inside, there are these men. They have not seen a woman for so long. It's good that you are here. We are going to give each one of you is going to have 15 guys. Each one of you will have 15 guys. And then these ladies, they were so shaken. One of them was crying, and she was saying, I cannot handle 15 guys. Maybe you give me 2 or 3. Imagine that trauma. And these are young women. They're like teenagers, maybe 17, 18 years old. They're children. So, and then this boy, they know is a son of someone who has, sacrificed for the country. He was beaten, put out there and beaten. So those things were happening. There was one time one of the girls tried to kill herself. She took a bunch of medicines and picked them up and swallowed them. She had to be taken to hospital. She almost died. And then with men, it's even the most horrific. And this usually happened during the torture. So they come, they take you for torturing. You are beaten, and then some of these guys, they bring out condom in front of you. They bring out condom, and then they say, it's been a very long time since I have been with a guy. Yeah, now it's good that you are here. I'm going to now. There was one boy, Minacholi. He became mad became mad. He was released in September, just before the October incident happened. He was released. He has gone mad. He will walk around naked.
Mentally ill.
Yeah, because of this. Yeah, because of this this behavior. He was. This is what happened to him. So those things were happening. Now, after the incident of October, what led to the incident of October is this kind of behaviors, because people became fearful. Many of these people have been detained for years. They have never been taken to court, never appeared before a judge. Some people have not even been investigated. No investigation. They're just put there to rot there. So, and then the people know, some of these people that pick people up, whenever there is going to be someone pick up, is already clear from the day what is going to happen.
Yes.
So then people panic, and that incident happened. Now, I had no idea what was happening, but I risked my life. I risked my life to make sure that no one died in that incident. And I went to talk with the government, and I mentioned all of these points. Why did these young people did this? Why did they took up arms? What they did was something tantamount to a suicide, but it's someone that has been left with no choice. So I went to speak. I spoke with them, and I mentioned all of these points. Jogriag was there, Amur was there, the former Minister of Interior from the Taban IO was there, Governor of Jubek State at the time, Agustino Jadala, was there, the former Director of MI, Chugraj, was there, IGP, who is still now there, was there. They were all there. I mentioned all of these points, and they were very shocked. And it's really where the national security started having problem with me, because I revealed their secrets. And it's what I told them, because they had this investigation committee of those of Kuat Garang, and some guy called Pop and some guy called Lado. These guys, they will come to investigate me. And they will ask me about what I said in an interview, what I said what I have said on Facebook or on my Twitter, and some of the things that I said during my TV show in Nairobi. And I told them, look, you guys are wasting time. And I used to tell the same thing to Abud Stephen before I was detained, because he was always threatening me. Yeah? We are going to arrest you. We are going to arrest you. And I was telling him, look, you can arrest me if you want, but you don't want to arrest me. Because the reason why you don't want to arrest me, the minute you arrest me, there's a lot that is going on now at the national security. And no one is even bothering to find out what happened.
Yes.
But the minute you arrest me, all the attention will turn to the national security. What goes on inside? And whatever happened inside there will be exposed. And when I was inside and I was being investigated, I was telling them, you people, you should release me. Because the more I stay here and I see these tortures, people being tortured and screaming and crying, let me tell you, there is no way I'm going to come out and not talk about these things. I'm going to talk about them. And when I talk about them, people of South Sudan will know that you are no better than al-Bashir, and you are no better than the niece in Khartoum. And that will be something that will be on your shoulders. So I used to talk to them about it. So the overall treatment in the Blue House was nasty. Now, when the incident in October happened, I was taken into a solitary confinement, another cell where I was locked in, no access to water, to toilet. Food was brought only once a day at 6 p.m. Once a day, Janjaro beans with some ugali. Sometimes they put sand inside so that it's not good for you to eat and become sick by eating it. This was the treatment, and then they will turn off light in my room for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks I will be in total darkness, not knowing what time of the day it is. And then another 2 weeks, they will turn on the light, and it will all be light. And the light is with this very bright light, to the extent that I felt like I was losing my mind at some point. So,
how were Dr. Peter? How were they treating leader of 7 October, Agak, as well in the prison?
He was facing the same treatment that we faced, but Carbino had been in prison before I was arrested, as you know. He was arrested in April, and I was arrested in July. So when I finally came to the prison, he had been there for so long and he had suffered. And I found him very bitter man. He will talk about some of these things that I'm talking. When I try to ask in details for him to be specific, he will just get angry. He will just get angry. And he will simply say that he has been humiliated, And it was so bitter for him. It was so bitter for him. And it was traumatic for him. Now, after the October incident, he was also locked. He was locked like me, and they were trying now to think as two of us as the ringleaders of the incident because we spoke to the Voice of America. But Carbino almost died. His body, because we were not getting much food. It was very, very little. And when they hear, for example, so and so is sick, particularly when I was sick, they hear that Biar is sick, then the food ratio inside the prison will be reduced completely. So then Carbino was not getting enough iron that he needed, and he lost blood. It went to the extent where he could not get up. So he is lucky because he has some of his clansmen. He's from Kongur in Tony, and Kongur in Tony North is one of the biggest clans, and he has some of his clansmen inside. So they push, and in particular, there is someone called Gang, Lieutenant Colonel Gang. He's the head of administration in the office of Akolkur. This guy is from Kongur. So he took responsibility to make sure that at least Carbino be taken to the hospital. So Carbino was rescued. He almost died. Carbino was rescued. And it was the Gang. It was Gang that rescued him. And it was good that they did that. So he was taken to the hospital. And after he received treatment, they put him outside. Where he can sleep in a bed and mattress so that his body can recover. So that's what happened. But then a lot of young boys begin to die. There were some that were staying in a room. Each room had like 19 people, and this is basically 1.5 by 1.5 meters room, and you have 19 people. So some people will have to be standing, some people are sitting, and then maybe 2 or 3 people can lie down. And you stay like that. So, and the food is not even enough. When the food is brought, it just finished before even some people even touch it. So a lot of people began to die, and it was so sad. The mood inside the prison changed. All the visits were cut off. When they were investigating us for the incident of October, you'll be brought in. There was this committee. It was headed by Peter Pagak. He's the commander of the administration division of national security. This guy, he was the one that was doing investigation with people like Gabriel Lobong. He's one of the former militias of Wanikonga from Biar. He was put there. People like Aguti. Is some guy there who is basically always sneaking behind people and talking nonsense behind people to try to create trouble. He was there. A bunch of these, lousy individuals. What they will do is you are seated down, and then they bring an officer with a gun. Yeah? And then the gun, they cock the gun. All right. And then now they say, okay, now you talk. Yeah? And then they're like, what happened? And you are sitting there, which is completely insane, because if they think that, somebody is, by then, it didn't even matter whether you die or live, because after all, this was unbelievable. We were wearing, they took away all our clothes, all our blankets, all our bed sheets. You just sleep on the cement. You sleep on the cement like that from October until we left Blue House. You sleep on the cement. Yeah? And you have only one piece of underwear. I still have it now as a souvenir, Yeah? That underwear that I wore inside there. One underwear the whole time. They gave us this uniform. They all became destroyed, because that is the only piece of clothing that we have. It was a total humiliation and a torture in its own right. And these were orders from Akolkur. These were the orders from Akolkur. So, we were very glad in the end when they charged us, because honestly, it didn't even matter whether they sentenced us to death or not. We were so happy to leave the Blue House because, as civilian, there was no reason even for me to be taken to the Blue House to begin with. There's nothing that brings national security to my affairs, especially when I'm talking about politics and talking about what can rescue the people of South Sudan. So when they finally charge us with those bogus charges, of course, many of whom that the judges thrown away, but then this guy Gabriel Gore, he's a major general. He's the commander of what they call the protection division. He's a semi-illiterate guy, can barely read. He used to come to court and he would just sit, looking at the judges so that he can intimidate them, or his agents inside the courtroom. And even he would try to intimidate me in the front of the judge. There were a number of different occasions that he tried to intimidate me in the front of the judge.
For you not to talk?
No, because because they were, the judge was ordering that our visiting should be allowed, that people should come to visit us. But then when our relatives try to come to visit us, they are denied from visit. And then they will come to court and pretend that, they don't know. And, they have what is called complaining or shaggy. And this shaggy was some guy called Angelo, who's, from Acholi or from Lotuko, or one of those things. And this guy, is some guy who is a lieutenant colonel, has no power. And, the judge will then ask Angelo, why are these people denied? And then Angelo, because he's under orders not to reveal the truth about what is happening, he will then, pretend that nothing is happening. So, I talked. I told the judge, look, you are talking to a wrong person. That is not the person that you should be talking to. The person that is preventing us from being visited is Gabriel Gore, and that is the guy there, the guy that is sitting there.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Can you give me a second to? Anyway. Yeah.
Go ahead. We are okay, Peter.
So
go ahead. Yeah.
So I told the judge, instead of you yelling at Angelo and talking to Angelo, so that Angelo is someone with no power. The person who is in charge of the Blue House and all the prisons in South Sudan, where all these crimes are taking place, is Gabriel Gore. And I pointed at him that this is a guy. So then he said, okay, this is guy with no shame. This is the courtroom full. My own father who is there in the courtroom. My relatives are there in the courtroom. The judges are there. You stand up in the front of the judges and say, okay, so now you are betraying me in the front of the judges. You wait until you come to the Blue House and you will see what you're going to see. Wow. And I told him, what do you think I'm going to see? What have I not seen in the Blue House that you are going to show me? So these are the people. So the treatment was so terrible. They had to come up with and then when the judges drop all the charges against all the charges being dropped, he basically then organized to go to the judges and to intimidate them. That how can all the charges against Biar be dropped? So then in the end, the judges had to come up with a charge to satisfy them. And this is where, the nonsense that disturbing the peace. What peace? What peace was in Juba that we disturbed? And what peace was at the Blue House that was disturbed? Me talking on the Voice of America. Was that what created panic? What about the 12 and the 14 that they were using to shoot us? Were those not the ones that were creating the panic? And the Babat that they deploy all over Juba? These were the things that were creating panic. But because they want to find some way, to basically continue to detain me, they threaten the judges. I don't blame the judges in the end, because
they are intimidated.
There is no rule of law. So that is what happened.
Thank you, Dr. Biar. Now I want you, because we have heard so many numerous things that happened while we were in Nairobi. Tell us about your political experience last year in Nairobi before you come to the United States.
So when I got to Nairobi, I had back pain. We used to sleep on the floor without blanket, without mattress, without bed sheet. And when you try to sleep on your side, you feel like your ribs will break. So the only way you can sleep is to lie on your back. When you lie on your back, all the weight is then shifted to your backbone. So then the backbone and the nerves that are around it, begin to feel a lot of pressure. So when I got out, I had serious back pain. And because when we were in Blue House, we were drinking this very dirty water, very dirty water.
Not to cut you off, actually, I kind of realized something while I was sitting with you there in Washington. You keep, touching your back every time. Is that what it is?
That is still part of it, yes. Because we were lying on the ground on the cement the whole time, And then I had also the problem with my kidney and my liver, the liver function test, because we were eating dirty food and, dirty water. So I needed treatment, So when I came to Nairobi, I was just focusing on getting better, and psychologically too, with all the torturing and people screaming at night, and the light being turned off, and people being disappeared and never returning, sleeping in the same room with dead people who they refused to take away. All of this, was a lot of trauma. So, I was just focusing on recovering. And then, the own activities were happening in South Sudan.
Yes.
The conflict in Jonglei was happening, and that has always been happening. And of course, there are people in Juba that are fueling it. We know, of course, where Murle is getting arms. It's something that is very obvious, and those arms are being deliberately deployed to create chaos in the Jonglei state. And they come largely from the national security, and with the involvement of some of these people calling themselves advisors on Murle affairs. All of that is something that we all know. So that issue was happening, and then there was the issue of Al Marine, which now they are confusing, adding in people like Rangakok, So they just basically think of somebody, and then they add you there. And they were talking about how people went on the street and demonstrate. After the demonstration, people were shot
in Sherkat,
and then people went on the street in Bor, and all these people were demanding that Salva must go. And then they were connecting that somehow with me, who is in Nairobi. Then there was the issue of Carbino. Then when Carbino formed his 7th of October movement, I had not been in touch with Carbino since we were released from the prison, because I was focused on my own issues. He was focused on his own issues. And I had no idea what he was up to. I just learned on the radio like everybody else. But all of a sudden now, they begin to think somehow that I had something to do with it. And, with them always being afraid that Biar is going to talk, because I had been silent since then. I only did one BBC interview the day I got out, and I didn't even say anything. I just brushed it off. So then there's always this fear that Biar is going to talk and he's going to expose, what happened. They then decided to send a team, the same team that kidnapped those of Dong Samuel and Agri Idris from Nairobi, and took them to Blue House, where they were then disappeared from the Blue House, taken to Luri, hacked to death, and their bodies sprayed with gas and burned to ashes. That same team was sent, but now to come and try to kidnap me, and if that is possible, to just disappear me in Nairobi. This is what happened. But I'm very fortunate, my brother. I thank God. There's people had it, and they called me, and they told me that your life is in imminent danger. And when this team arrived, they came to Nairobi through Wilson Airport. I was informed that they are in town. And then they began to track me, follow me. There's the one vehicle in particular. There was one with Kenyan license plate. When someone tried to visit me, there were several friends that tried to come to visit me in my house. We were being followed. And then when we were then we applied for the US visa. And now when we got the visas and we were trying to do the coronavirus test, we're being followed. These vehicles are everywhere. They come to park near my apartment. Near my apartment. Basically to monitor what is going on. What am I doing? So one time we managed to take a picture of one of the license plates. And we sent it to some of our contacts inside Juba to check in the registry of the traffic police. Who does this car belong to? They went and found that the car has no records. There's no records of that car in the registration. No records. Which basically tell you the only people that do not have cars on records in South Sudan are the national security. The national security. They use fake numbers that don't exist, so that even if you get the number, they cannot be traced to anybody. So it became very clear that these people, it was just basically a moment of time before anything terrible happened. But I was very fortunate, because it was a very difficult situation. The Nairobi airport was shut down, so they were feeling emboldened that Biar will not go anywhere because Jomo Kenyatta airport was shut down because of COVID. There was no flight that was taking off. But thank God, the embassy organized a special flight for me and my family. And it was also an opportunity for other Americans that were stuck in Nairobi, and some of the Canadians and Westerners that were stuck to get a chance to leave Kenya. So that is what happened, and that's how I managed to get out.
Thank you, Doctor. Now let's move on. The way forward in the country. As a political activist who has been vocal on the current affairs in our country and the way out from the current fiasco in our country, you have been here talking about the generational exit, I should say. Could you explain to our viewers what generational exit exactly all about? Because people wanted to know.
Yeah. The concept, is something that should not really be confusing. In Dinka, we have a saying that, we say it in Dinka, wood that means a generation come and they take charge of things, and then another generation will later come and replace them.
Correct.
That is the natural cycle of life. Is there in our Dinka culture. Not just only in Dinka, most of the South Sudanese societies, something like that is there. Two, when we were in the SPLA, in the bush, it was clear that we had Jesh Aswad and Jesh Hammer. Jesh Aswad had a specific mission, and that was to destroy the old Sudan. The Jesh Hammer had another mission, and that is to build the new Sudan. Right? They used to tell us, we cannot build a new Sudan. Those of Salva Kiir, Riek Machar, Lamakot, Kwalmanyang, Awenakot. They used to tell us, we are not going to build the new Sudan. It is you who will build the new Sudan. Our job is to destroy the old Sudan. Okay. So what I was arguing is that at any moment in human life, there is a task that faces each generation. Like the generation before us, they were faced with the task of liberation. If you were someone of age at the time when Junubin were going to bush, and you didn't go to bush, people in your generation will see you as a coward. Because it is something that has come and faced your generation at that time. Now, it doesn't mean that it's that generation alone that does it. There were older people that went to the bush with the younger one. People like Ladingwal, he was already older, but he went. But the mental of liberation, those who were in charge of it was the generation of those of Dr. John, those of Salva Kiir. But even us in the Red Army, later on, we joined. and we also fought for the liberation of the country. So when we say that that generation did the liberation, it's not them alone, but they were the one around which the rest of the society organized. And the point that I was arguing is that the tasks that face South Sudan now are beyond the capacity of those of Riek Machar, Kir Mayadit, and the rest of them. Lama called all of them. Is beyond their capacity. It requires a new generation, new blood, new ideas around which the rest of the South Sudanese can organize. It's not them alone that will do it. It's not us alone that will do it. But we are the core around which the rest of South Sudanese can organize. The rest of the people can organize around us. This is what we mean by generational exit. That we allow that core, that younger core, to be the one to be at the focal point, while the older one, those of Salva Kiir that have exerted all the efforts, have finished their job, should then retire and now support us, organize around us, so that we can bring our people together. It doesn't mean that it's only us that must serve. It doesn't mean that there are no people in the other generations that have something to contribute. Of course, they have a lot to contribute, but they are no longer the core around which our society can organize. The society will need to organize around entirely different core, and that is going to be the younger people of South Sudan, the younger leaders. And this was one of the key points we stressed in the Young Leaders Forum, that and when we did the Young Leaders Forum, we defined it open. It was basically people under 48 down to people around 25, as the group, the core group that can take South Sudan forward. And if you look at the census from 2008, 95% of the population of South Sudan is under the age of 45.
Correct.
So you have only 5% that is causing the mess and is keeping the rest of the country hostage. And we are telling these 5%, you relax. Instead of getting us to kill each other and to fight each other all the time, you relax. Let us build the country. If the money is what you want, we can bring the money for you. Whatever it is that you want, we can build that new future.
So is it, you mean, can generational exit be perceived as a political theory? What is it in terms?
It's not really a political ideology, because an ideology is a way of thinking. It's a philosophy. It's not really a philosophy. It's something that is practical. I'm just calling a spade a spade. It's something that is in the natural work of things. Right now, the president is stuck in his house. He can't go to the office. He can't go to J1 because he's having now the knee problem in his house. So he can't even go there. Sometimes when you see him walk, it's terrible. It's really terrible. He can't do what he is forcing himself to do. They are so spent. They're so tired, and they're just there because of people who want narrow interests, So what we are saying is something that is practical, is the natural course of things. No one is going to live forever, Where are those of Deng Nial? They are not here. They are gone long time ago. Those of Abel Ali now, if Abel Ali now want to, now when they force him to come to be the one to be doing the national dialogue, most of the time he was just sleeping. He would just come there and he just take his nap, and then he will wait and see what people have been talking. And sometimes he just have no idea even what people have been talking. It was the same thing with the late Nelson Mandela. People will come to talk with him, and sometimes he has no even idea who is in the room. And people will just put him there, and the guy is tired. He wants to relax. And it's the same thing that we are saying. So this is something natural. It's not a political ideology. The ideology that we have in South Sudan as young people is an ideology that has always been there. And that is an ideology of African nationalism, that we want to ensure that we take care of our resources, we utilize our resources and on our factors of production to build wealth, so that people of African race, and in particular we, South Sudanese, who have always been treated as second-class citizens and always discriminated against, will be respected by the rest of the world. We cannot be respected if we are poor and begging people. We can only be respected when we use our resources well, when we build our economy, when we build our country, when we show the world the beauty of our culture, as I have tried through the wrestling. I travel all the different areas where the wrestling is done and show the beauty of South Sudan, show the uniqueness of our culture and our identity. This is the kind of thing that we want to do. The ideology that we have as young people is African nationalism. We don't want Chinese to come as second colonizers of our people, to come and loot our resources the same way that the European did, decades ago. We want our resources to be used by our people. So instead of having Chinese oil companies that are stealing our oil in cahoots with the leadership in Juba, we want our resources to be used well, not used in a way that destroy our environment, as what is happening in Paluch, which is a tragedy. People of Ngok Dinka are dying in a large number. In fact, what is happening is a genocide. It's a genocide because the oil companies are making pollution, they're destroying water sources, animals are dying in large numbers, the land is becoming barren. And that is one of our most fertile lands. And instead of our resources now lifting up our people, the resources are literally destroying our people. And only very few who are corrupt, all these thieves that have access to J1 and Blue House, these are the people that are making money. And the rest of the country is dying. Poverty rate, as we speak, has increased to 82% from 50% when we got our independence. Last year we were ranked the dead last on social progress index, 163 out of 163. Funds for Peace Fragile State Index, we are just ranked only ahead of Yemen. We tied with Somalia for the last place in the 2020 Corruption Perception Index. In the 2020 Freedom House score, we ranked -2. -2. Imagine the ranking is supposed to range between 0 and 100. We couldn't even score between 0 and 100. We went and scored -2. -2 because of the lack of freedom in our country. This is what we are saying. This is basically making our people hopeless. Our people now are living in refugee camps and IDP camps. They are beggars. But these are people with enormous resources. We have a country the size of France with only 11 million people living there. We have oil, abundance of it. We have gold, abundance of it. We have land. We have timber. Instead of Akolakur creating these companies through the Sud company to basically take these resources and then use them to suppress the people of South Sudan and bribe them, these resources can be used to basically build our people up so that the world really see the true intelligence and beauty of South Sudan. And there are people trying that. If you see, for example, what Luol Deng has done. What Luol Deng has done with the basketball, this is really the kind of what we want to achieve in this country. Within a very short time, he has shown the world the talent of South Sudanese young men. And he's now also showing them the talent of South Sudanese young women. And our people love it. Our people are so talented in sports. The same thing with our football team, Bright Stars. What they are doing without any support from the government. It's just individuals that are contributing resources to them. They have shown the world the talent. Our beautiful models, from Ajak down to people like Aduda Kate and the rest of the young girls, there's a very beautiful young Nuer lady that I've seen recently. And showing the world the beauty of our people. That is the kind of thing that we should be doing. Not the nonsense of Akolakur, torturing people, disappearing people, molesting people in the Blue House, detaining people, all these terrible things. So this is why we are saying we need a completely new blood. Luol Deng has shown this. Where was no one ever knew there was a South Sudanese Basketball Association before he came.
Even Nigeria, they start fearing South Sudan.
Even play basketball. And now the NBA is going to be full with South Sudanese. Give this man like some years, you will see how many people he will lift up and how he will lift our country up. And this is the country that we can be proud of. When I see them playing that basketball, I'm so proud of the young people of South Sudan. So this country, we, the young people, we are the majority. We are the majority in this country. And through generational exit, we are not going to do it by guns. We are going to do it by votes because we are the majority. And when these elections happen, and believe me, these elections will happen, we are going to contest every single seat from the presidency all the way down to the commissioner and whatever administrator at the level of Payam. We are going to contest. If necessary, we will form our own party, and we are going to get young people, all young people, to contest every single seat. And we will make sure that this country realize the potential that I see every single day in the people of South Sudan.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar. Talking about the poverty rate in the country and suffering. Of course, in South Sudan, a child can die for something that would cost £1, 1 South Sudanese pound. Now, you are aware of the current economic meltdown in the country. As an economist, I would like you to share with South Sudanese citizens through this live broadcast today some ideas on how can we fix economy and restore it by diversifying our economy.
Well, the plan is already there. We developed the growth strategy. Yeah, it may be more than a decade ago when this thing happened, but the growth strategy is there. You know, the philosophy in this growth strategy is we think of economic growth as episodic. That is, you know, it happened with episode. There is so, for example, what the point I was trying to make to them, especially when the oil prices were very high, was that let's look at the current growth, because when we got our independence, you know, the economy was growing really fast, and what was driving the economic growth was oil, and the argument was that this is one episode of growth. So as we are on this episode, you know, the point I was also telling them was that the oil is not going to be there forever. Oil is running out, and at some point the oil will run out. And if the oil run out and we have wasted the resources and we have not built wealth, then what are we going to use to grow? And the point was, let's think of oil as the first episode of growth and use that episode of growth to prepare for the next episode of economic growth. And that next episode, of course, was going to be a people-centered economy where, you know, the wealth will be getting into the hand of the people. Because you can have economy growing and people are getting poorer, like what has been happening in Nigeria, for example. We have economic growth, but the poverty rate is actually going up. More people and more people are becoming poor. That is because the growth is unequal, and it's only the elites that are getting the benefit. So if you want to spur a broad-based economic growth, the way to do it was agriculture. Start with agriculture and then begin to introduce some basic manufacturing. You know, there's a lot that we can learn from the experience of the Asian tigers. You know, basic things like textiles, you know, and you start making your own clothes. Or people wear your own clothes. And Junubian used to do it in the 70s. One of the things I did before I was arrested when I visited Yambio, I visited the Anzara factory, you know, and he has been sitting like that. No one has even been interested to even revive it and see like what kind of investment that can be done in it, you know. And it's amazing what can be done there. You know, we have all the raw material, and our people are not lazy. They keep saying that Junubian are lazy. This is not true. Junubian are not lazy. Our people have just not been given the right opportunities. And if given the right opportunities, we can make our own clothes. We can now begin to manufacture basic things like toothbrush, so that, you know, when you brush your teeth, you're using locally produced products. Slowly and slowly and slowly, and with the government, you know, helping to create opportunities and subsidizing this, we begin now to think about improving quality for those basic manufacturing so that we are then able to compete with the imported goods. And soon, we, instead of thinking about what to sell domestically, we'll be thinking about imports. And we sell things to the import. Then there are things that are already there that we are not making use of. It's only national security now that is basically making money through the companies under the suit investment. And these are things like gum arabic. Gum arabic is there. It grows wild in our forests, and is one of the products that is in very high demand because it's used as a stabilizer in all the food products. So all the same thing with the forestry. Things like juice. If you go to Western Equatoria, during the mango season, the mango will block you from driving. This is something that I have seen with my own eyes. I didn't used to believe it. And there is no reason for it. We had the White Nile that was the factory that was built. And people like Mama Rebecca, I understand, were part of it and were involved in it. But in the end, the company had to close down. Why? Because they were not getting the foreign exchange. They were not getting the dollars so that they can buy the imports that they need to be able to produce locally. So we end up killing our own companies, and the dollar was being stolen and being taken out of the country. So, there are ways in which the economy can be rescued. Even now, as we speak, all of these ways can still be applied. Our people are eager to work so that everybody want to be self-reliant, and our people are very proud. They are very proud people. No one wants to be dependent on another person. So, if given the opportunities and the kind of skills that they need, we have to really invest in our people. Mass education, doing vocational training, targeting youth, doing public works, helping the population to build roads. This was done in Burkina Faso, during the time of Sankara. When Thomas Sankara came to power, he mobilized the population. Not only did they build the roads, they built the railway. The people of Burkina Faso did it. And people of Burkina Faso are not smarter than people of South Sudan. We can do this in South Sudan. But the problem is we have leadership that basically want to make money off us, want to starve us so that they can make money, want to underdevelop us intentionally as a way of making themselves rich. And this is why to really rescue the economy is start with getting rid of these awful, terrible leaders that we have in this country.
Thank you, Peter Ajak. Talking about the election, vast majority of South Sudanese do not believe as long as President Kiir and Dr. Machar are in charge in the country, election is not going to be fair. An election is not going to take place. Now, in your speech in front of members of the United States Senate Foreign Relations, you talk about democracy through election as the way forward from current political fiasco in the country. Will election succeed with President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Dr. Machar in power, Dr. Biar?
Well, let's take your question, first of all, from the theoretical level.
Okay.
Kiir and Machar as individuals, if they were really genuine and interested in elections, there's no reason why election cannot take place, and they are also citizens of South Sudan. Of course, I don't think they can really crisscross the country and then campaign in any aggressive way. But if they insist, they can run and they can go with their message. I don't know what the message would be, but they can go. There is no problem there. But now, practically, they have no interest in the elections because they know the people of South Sudan don't want them. This is the outcome of the national dialogue that happened recently in Juba. And by the way, the leaders of national dialogue, people like Uncle Aldo Ajo, people like Uncle Angelo Beda, those of Joshua Dow, those of Uncle Makiruthiong, All of these people, they did not appoint themselves. They were put there so that they can do the national dialogue. And the people of South Sudan has spoken that Kiir and Machar must go. So now they don't want the message because they don't like what the people have said. They wanted maybe people to say, these people are great, we want them to stay. No, but people of South Sudan are tired of them. Now they don't like the elders because the elders are being faithful to what the people have said. This is tragic, but it shows what their real intention is. We were supposed to have election after independence, because you can have an independent state. Sometimes you may have a 1-year transition. It doesn't have to be 4 years. It can be 1 year. But it was agreed because people believe that Salva Kiir, as someone who have survived among the members of the permanent political military high command, that he would remain true to the vision of his colleagues, Titor John, William Nguyen, Karbina Kwanyin Bol, Arok Tonarok, who have died, and that he will build the institution that can allow the country to vote. Since then, we have not had elections, and elections are always delayed. One really awful thing was 2018, when money was looted from the treasury and paid to all the MPs, each one of them given 40,000. I appreciate one of the MPs actually from my area of Twitches, who resigned from his position as the chief whip because he could not justify in his own conscience how he could take such money. This is Uncle Atem Garang Deng Dekwek. He did it, But the rest of the MPs, they use the excuse that there is a car loan, and then they all take the money for themselves while the military is not paid, while the basic services are missing, while our diplomats are not paid. Now, they were supposed to be held in 2021, but then the 2018 peace agreement said the election should be 2022. And you see them dragging their feet. You heard what Angelina Teng said recently. The soldiers that were in the cantonment site have all defected. They have all deserted and they have left. So there's no one there. And the reason why they left is because there is no food, there is no water, and there is no medicine. Quays, if oil is flowing,
yes,
and the National Revenue Authority is collecting non-oil taxes, millions per month, where is this money going for soldiers not to have food in the cantonment site if Kiir and Machar were really interested? And we have not had anything from Machar, so he must be very happy with what is going on. In the past, he used to talk and tell us where the problem is. If you think it's Kiir that is not delivering, he will say it. But we have not been hearing anything from him, which means that this is something deliberate that they are doing together. Maybe they are sharing the money among themselves. And I said recently that maybe this guy has realized that the only position he could ever hold is the position of first vice president. And since he had been, running in the bush over the last few years, maybe he needs some time to, recover his pockets and put some money there. And he's now, why is it his wife the one talking? Why is it Angelina the one telling us that the money is not there and that the soldiers have defected, when Riek is the signatory to the peace agreement, and he's nowhere to be found to even talk about what is delaying the implementation? It shows that they are working together. They think that people of South Sudan are chums. They think you are a chum. They think they can basically play circus around you all the time. And they have successfully played circus around you since 2011. And they are continuing to do that. So they want you to think that they want some elections when they have not even began implementing Chapter 1 of the agreement, that is forming the government. They have only formed the executive. Parliament is nowhere. Parliament at the national level, at the state level, is nowhere. Judiciary is nowhere. There's no judiciary. Let's not even talk about the reform that they are mentioned in the agreement. None of it is there. It shows that these people don't want to have elections. And this is why we have to be smarter and look for other mechanisms. First of all, we make it clear to the world that these are people that are imposing themselves on our people. You know, no one really wants these people. People of South Sudan don't want them.
Right.
If it is their tribes, we in Dinka, we don't want Kir. The Nuer people, they don't want Riek. Yeah? So they are just basically people that are imposing themselves on the people of South Sudan. They don't want to be held accountable through democratic elections. And this is why we have to argue this case to the world, because you have a crisis of legitimacy. You have leaders that are not legitimate, that are pretending to be leaders. And, you know, if they were serious, the election could be held. Now, ultimately, if the elections are held and they want to run, it's up to them. But let's not forget also the Chapter 5 of the agreement, and which is one thing that they have now approved, and that is the formation of the hybrid court on South Sudan. According to Chapter 5, anyone that has been indicted by the hybrid court cannot be eligible to serve in any government in South Sudan, both the current government and the future government. And there's a lot of evidence, you know, about crimes against humanity that Akol Okur, for example, have committed. And how can Akol Okur commit these crimes without approval of Kir? And especially when they are brought to him all the time and he doesn't respond. If you take, for example, the abduction of Dong Samuel and Agri Idris from Nairobi by known national security agents, brought to the Blue House, and then disappeared from the Blue House to Luri, executed. Now, would you say Akol will do something like this without first talking with Kir? I doubt. So if the hybrid court is established, you know, now evidence will be gathered, and some of this evidence will be taken to the prosecutor. And should the prosecutor indict him or Riek Machar, because, you know, IO has also committed atrocities, then none of them can run. None of them is eligible to run, because that is what the agreement says, that anybody that has been indicted by the hybrid court cannot run. And if they are indicted, well, tough luck for them, you know. And I'm glad, by the way, that about yesterday's resolution. Yesterday, the United Nations Security Council unanimously renewed the mandate of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS. And one of the language that was put there was that the Secretary General is required to report back to the Security Council by July 2021 with an assessment of how to create an enabling environment for elections. And should Kir and Machar continue to disrupt the work of the UNMISS, it will be reported to the Security Council. And Security Council will take any means necessary to ensure that people of South Sudan are able to vote for the leaders of their choice. No one can impose them on a sovereign people. Sovereignty of the people of South Sudan is not with an individual, particularly an individual that they have never voted for. It's with the people. And the people can be heard by the world. And we can go and talk at any forum in the world. And even now, I can be very frank with you, I will have many more forums to talk at, including the World Economic Forum, where I have just been selected as a young global leader.
And congratulations, by the way, for that.
And believe me, I will make the world know what is happening in South Sudan. And when we gained our independence, it wasn't just the struggle of South Sudanese alone. It was South Sudanese struggling, and the struggle resonating with the people of the world, the same way that it is happening now. With the conclusion of the national dialogue, it's now very clear what the people of South Sudan want, and that is for a future that is free of Kir Mayadit and Riek Machar. You know, these people have put themselves on us for so long. And we are so tired of them, extremely tired of them. And we have to make it very clear to them. And this struggle now is going to be both internally and externally, with the simple objective of freeing our people from dictatorship.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Biar. Now, security in any country is the top priority of the government. In your own words, what are the measurements that should be put in place to ensure a safe social environment among our various communities in South Sudan and end the communal violence for good?
Well, we can talk theoretically what can be put on the ground, but that is irrelevant unless we look at what is happening on the ground.
Right.
What is happening in the ground is you have, for example, now in Tony, a Kolokur arming different clans of Tony to kill one another. You know, arming is very tiny. You know, it comes from a very tiny section called Atok. This Atok is very, very, very small. Very, very, very small.
Yes.
He has armed these people, you know, and you know, Antonio North is now in a complete chaos. And then he wants to disarm communities that he doesn't like. You know, so this crisis is being deliberately caused by the government. He's arming Murle in Jongle. We know that. Yeah? He's arming all these communities as a way of creating disorder so that then he projects his power. So we can talk theoretically, but this will not change anything. What needs to change is leadership so that we are able to establish security organizations that operate to deliver human security, citizen security. What we initially set out to do when the national security was established, you know, and we have those documents. The national security policy is there. We have the draft. The white paper on intelligence and national security, they are there. When we have the right environment, we are going to create these things. Now, they think of disarming people. This is one thing that comes to them in their mind. But where do the people get arms? Do we have factories for making weapons in the rural areas? Do we have them in South Sudan? And the only one that imports weapons into South Sudan is the government. And how do these weapons leave and then go in the hand of the civilians? And then you want to go and disarm them when you don't even provide them with security, and where you are arming their rivals, other rival communities to come and steal their cattle. It's crazy. It's completely crazy. So what we should talk about is how we transition out of the crisis under which Salva Kiir and Riek Machar has put this country, so that we reclaim our country back. And that will then allow us now to think about building a security sector that really put the security of our people at the heart of its mandate and operation. And that way our people will then have the confidence to give up their weapons. They will have the security that they need, and therefore they will not need any weapon. Yes. And then they will have jobs. And with jobs, they will not need to raid anybody else. And I seen this clearly when I was doing the wrestling initiative. I used to bring all these Mundari, all these Dingabor, Yerul, and Lotuko youth. And they wrestle, and I pay them. And when you pay them, you know, there's no need for them to go and risk their life trying to raid somebody. They begin to relax, knowing that there's other ways that they can make money and other ways for which they can feed their families.
Thank you, Dr. Biar. Now, we are all aware that, and you know, that President Kiir, Riek Machar, they do not believe in election. They believe on extensions. That's obvious because they have been getting mandate after mandate since 2011, 15, Addis Ababa, now 18, and now they are talking about more extension. So now, what should be done if President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar continue to defer election by extension, as it is the case now, through the peace agreement and through the National Legislative Assembly, because they have been doing this for quite some time. What people of South Sudan need to do then?
Well, if they do that unilaterally, it will amount to a coup d'etat. The reason why I say that is, under African Union Charter, legitimacy is specifically defined. Kiir has done this thing because no one has been paying attention. But now people are paying attention. And people have realized that he's not serious about doing elections. So this is his last chance. Let me say it.
Yes.
This is his last chance. If he resort to the same tactics again, people of South Sudan will not accept it. And although we have not seen any major demonstration in this country, that may be what sparks them. And they will go on the street with their right, demanding that the election happen immediately, and the world will stand with them. His government will be seen, well, it's already illegitimate, really. But it would have entirely expired. It's like an expired product. It's useless. That's what will become of it. And the UN Security Council at that time, as a global body, entrusted with the responsibilities of peace and security around the world, will then have an obligation to put the people of South Sudan together and discuss the kind of new political paradigm that they want in their country. This is something that is going to be done. If Kiir thinks that he cannot do election this time, what will be his excuse? If it is the implementation of the agreement, it's because he lacks the political will. He, Riek Machar, lacked the political will to make the necessary compromises. And without the compromises, what good will extension do? How will they explain the extension to anybody to convince you that this extension this time will mean something, when the problem has always been political will?
You're right.
Yes, if the soldiers can desert from the confinement side.
You, Dr. Biar, Kiir, he's in charge, he's a dictator. He's the one that's going to count the ballot. So since, if he said, okay, fine, let's go for election, and he's the one counting it. So if he rigged that election, and then that's another disaster as well, correct?
Well, yes, elections are rigged when the citizens are not taking election security seriously. You know, the reason why you see election not rigged in other countries is not because the leaders there don't want to rig them. There are leaders that want to rig them, but because the citizens are serious, it provides no opportunity to rig them. One of the first things that will need to happen is election law that need to be drafted. This law, one of the things that need to be put in the law is that the counting of votes must happen at the level of counties. You don't need to bring the ballots all the way to Juba to be counted. They must be counted at the county level. And at the county level, they will be counted not just only in the front of the election official, but representative of the different parties that are contesting the elections, journalists, civil society. Ballot will be taken out, and then if it is a valid ballot, it will be counted. There is no way Kiir or Riek Machar can rig elections in all the 79 counties of South Sudan. There are some counties where he cannot even go. This is why I wonder whether he will actually even campaign in the election, because he's not welcome, and people may be provoked to see him. So this will reduce the ability to rig. Take, for example, in my county in Twitch East, who is going to come to rig our election in Twitch East? And the way we do our vote in Twitch East, the first thing we do, we meet, and then we discuss how we're going to vote. And most of the time, people vote as a block. So once people decide what they're going to vote, it's going to be difficult for anyone to rig that, especially at the level of the county. And then the results are announced. And the only thing that happened at the level of Juba is tallying, just adding up the numbers. So he may, try to cheat in Juba. But if we already know the voter registry, what are the number of voters in each area, then you cannot have like funny activities where over 100% voted. The only thing you can't go over 100%. It's only you can go to the 100%. Right? So there are things that can be done, and it would really require the vigilance of young people and youth. They can be trained. The capacity can be built. Let's not be afraid that somehow because election can be rigged, this is a reason not to have them. Of course, I know the first election we will hold will have challenges. They will have problems. But we'll only get better from there. And the sooner we start, the better. And even if we are not able to remove the top leadership, we'll be able to remove, some people in the middle, some of our MPs who have not been doing much for us. We'll remove them. And that is the beginning of change. Even people talk about the elections in Uganda. Yes, there was a rigging and it was a sham. But at least, the National Unity Platform now is the largest opposition party in Uganda with about a third of the vote. That is sufficient to have impact and to hold government accountable. And that is the way we can think about building our country. It's not a one-day journey. It's a long journey. But you have to begin somewhere. And for us, we have been delaying to begin because we fear holding election. So we have accepted this awful status quo of Salva Kiir and Riek Machar that is literally taking us nowhere. And it can only end with disintegration of our country. So let us have the confidence and let us commit to working hard to make sure that the elections that happen are truly genuine and they reflect the will of our people.
Thank you, Dr. Biar. Now, your testimony in front of the U.S. Senate Foreign Committee last week was seen by some people as a way of seeking solution from national issues from abroad, rather than working internally to bring much needed political change. What is your reaction?
These kind of accusations and criticism, something you expect from the regime psychopaths and apologists. And it has no basis in any history of anything. If you take our own struggle during Anyanya 1, those of William Deng Nial, at some point they were displaced to Europe, Switzerland, raising money so that they can, support the struggle of the people on the ground. Even if you look at those of Agri Jardin, they were in Uganda, lobbying to get the support of Uganda so that they can do things inside their country. If you look at the SPLA would have not achieved anything without the support of Ethiopia. Salva Kiir himself. He was part of the first 5-person delegation that traveled from Gambela all the way to Addis Ababa to go and talk with Mengistu so that Mengistu can support. And we have seen with our own eyes and the role the United States has played in the struggle for the liberation of South Sudan. If that was the case, then they would have stayed in Juba and stayed inside South Sudan and do it on their own without going to Addis Ababa or going even to Museveni. We even sacrificed troops in the Battle of Ashwa. Eritrea, a lot of other countries stood with us. This notion that things can only be solved internally has no basis in history. So all of this is nothing. It's basically criticism of people that have their own agenda. And even the United States, when it got its independence from Great Britain, the reason why when any president of the US is sworn in, the first president they call is the president of France, is because when US was getting its independence, it was getting its independence against Great Britain. And the country that stood with the United States was France. France provided them with the resources that they need for them to win their liberation. And that's why France became the first ally of the United States. So there is nowhere in the world where things are just handled within the geographical boundaries of that particular area. The world is a small village, has always been integrated. And support from one part is necessary because all of us as human beings, what we aspire for is freedom. And as Martin Luther King Jr. put it, a threat to freedom anywhere in the world is a threat to freedom everywhere. So free people, wherever they are in the world, they stand in solidarity with other people in the world who are fighting for their freedom. And that's why the Americans stood with us, the evangelicals stood with us. And they supported the people of South Sudan to get their independence because they see that the threat to the freedom in South Sudan could one day become a threat to their own freedom here. Mm-hmm. So that's what happened. And that's why this is going to happen again. People from around the world are going to stand with us again. Because now they see people of South Sudan are serious. They're willing to embrace themselves. They're coming forward with a realistic solution to the challenges that they face. And they will help us to realize the kind of future that we want for our people.
Thank you. So now, what can the new political dispensation do for South Sudanese if it is realized, Dr. Biar?
It will give them a new beginning. It will make them entirely new. It's like when you are baptized. When you are baptized, your old self had died. You had died, in sin. And you are reborn in spirit with Jesus Christ as a new person with new ideas. And that's why Paul said in one of his epistles that all things are gone. These are new things. So once we liberate ourselves from the tyranny of these two very old gentlemen, then we will begin a new future together as new people with new bonds, with new hopes, new aspirations. That excitement that we felt on Independence Day, that's how we are going to feel it again. The way Sudanese felt in 2019 when they got rid of al-Bashir, it was exactly the way they felt when they got rid of Jaffa Numeri, when they got rid of Ibrahim Aboud, and when they got their independence in 1956. And that is exactly how we are going to feel. It's just the way we feel when we got our independence. It's exactly the way we feel when the CPA was signed. We are going to have that new hopes, that bold ideas to innovate, to conquer, to explore, and new creativity of South Sudanese is going to be unleashed that would propel our people forward, not just only in South Sudan, but in the Horn of Africa and the continent of Africa and beyond. And people will finally see the potential and the ingenuity of the South Sudanese people unleashed in a global scale that will bring exciting opportunities and exciting ways of doing things, creating new ideas, new markets, and new ways of doing things. This is the future we can build together. It's a future that is bold, it's a future that is exciting, and it's a future that we can embrace with dreams so large that no one can ever imagine them.
Thank you, Dr. Peter Biar Ajak. Now, I want to give you last chance to send last message to the people of South Sudan who are watching, I believe so, in Juba, watching in East Africa, in Europe, in Australia, in the United States, in North Africa. Please, your last message.
The only message that I want to tell our people, many years ago, Dr. John lighted a fire when he began the liberation struggle with those of William Nguyen and Carbino Kwanyen Bull. He lighted a fire. And that fire created light that shines in each and every one of us.
Yes.
The terrible experiences under the rule of Kir and Riek Machar might have dimmed that light, but it's somewhere inside your heart. It is in the heart of every South Sudanese man, woman, and child, and it is burning. I ask you, my people, allow that light to shine. Let it shine inside you. Let it shine within your families. And let the glow of that light lighten up our entire country and the continent of Africa. And we will achieve those dreams that up to now have only been dreams, but which will become a reality if we allow that light within us to shine. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Peter Ajak, I am honored to have you. Thank you so much for being in this humble forum, concerned citizen of South Sudan. I hope this is not going to be the last day. We will continue, as the struggle continue for the past, to have justice, liberty, and prosperity for our beloved country, the Republic of South Sudan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, I want to go break, and then I will send you the links so you can come and weigh in your perspective. We are not going to stay for a very long time tonight. We may have a little bit, not too much. But for now, let me go for a short break, and then we'll be back. Let's play this for you as well.
No one can make a convoy get the chunk on the log, a missioner, the laga. Come on, put your mother in town. Track on the church and go down, Kenya, Jankula, Jankama. Come on, put your mother in town. One team, one young well, a boom, young, Kulen, where a boo bull and a cable, and where all. Come on, put your mother in town. Track on the church and go down, Kenya, Jankula, Jankama. Come on, put your mother in town. No one can make you a jungle pay, Kayan mother pay. She come down to Calling by a lot. Got your shit and work out, pull out and come on. Sharon, a legend. Calling by a lot. She's on web on you. She don't wear bubble. She's on web on you. She don't wear bubble. Come on, she come down Sudan. No one can make a convoy get can't talk on the dog, a missioner, the laga. Come on, put another dog in town. Track on the church and go down, Kenya, Jankula, Jankama. Come on, put another dog in town. One team, one young well, a boom, yo, Kulen, where a boom bull and a cable, and where all. Come on, put another dog in town. Track on the church and go down, Kenya, Jankula, Jankama. Come on, put another dog in town.
Morning, mà chú rồi lôi.
Mấy tuổi mà?
Quay đi morning, tiếp tục có quay cái chém thôi.
Chính sao?
Ê,
Nó bún rồi.
cái nào với nhột đi.
Nó bún mà gar mà bún mà đi sang rồi.
Cái đang tiệt thì chú rồi lại với cái đang phê cái tiệt.
Mà gor nó bà bún.
Mà con là sao mà gì?
Bún lên lưng.
Anh nhọ bên cái đang con anh nhọ.
Mà gar bà bún đi.
Cái đang bây giờ lôi đi quên. Yo tao lên đi.
Không kiếm đâu nó bún. Thế nhưng mà bún cái chân.
Vì cái đang chuyện cái tiệt mà cái đang áp với con tháo mà gì?
Nó mà yêu mà.
Mỗi
No one can make a convoy get around, can't check on the dog, a missioner, the laga. Come on, put another dog in town. Check on the church and go down, Kenya, Jankula, Jankama. Come on, put another dog in town.
one team, one young well, a boom, yo, Kulen, where a boo bull and a cable, and where all.
Banyam, come on, what's another that can down? Shakon just shake and go down, Kayaro, Jankula, Jankama. Banyam, come on, what's another that can down?
All right, with that, thank you so much. We are back from our break, and I hope we will not continue to hear that gunshot anymore. We have differences in our country. Those differences has led us to the situation that we are in right now. So with that, I send the link there, to individuals that coming to participate. I hope, you got the link, and then we move on from here so we can give a few a chance to weigh in their perspective before we call a day today. So let me go ahead and see here who is available. I sent it down there. Please go ahead. You don't want to spend more time, waiting. I believe I sent this down there. I sent the link. Okay. Okay, let me go ahead and send the link as well. I'm going to move on from here. Please go ahead and share the live broadcast so we can have a string on it. Let me see here who is here. Okay. I believe I sent you a link. Dang it. I sent you a link, Emmanuel. I sent a link here. So we'll go back. And I can go ahead and put the link here as well. Yep, it's right there. Go ahead, Ajama. We don't want to waste time. Since I'm done with my guests, now I open it for you. It shouldn't take that long to do the process, to come in and weigh in your perspective. All right, I do see Moses, you are here. Thank you, Moses. Moses Makir Kwanjok, welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. You have heard our interview with Dr. Peter Biar, Ajak, economist, the young aspiring nationalist South Sudanese. So now, I want to hear from you. And I see Morwell Ater Morwell is here as well. I believe so you wanted to weigh in. That's good. Good to have you, Uncle Morwell. Let me go ahead and bring you here. All right. So now, that's what I can handle for now. Ladies and gentlemen, just wait. And then when I'm done with these individuals here in the studio, and then I will go back to you as well and bring you up. So Moses, I want to get your perspective. We're going to give 5 minutes so we can move along and we can give a chance to other people to come as well. Moses, let's start from you, and then I will go to Uncle Morwell, Ater Morwell. Fadal. Go ahead.
Ustad Jonkor, I would like to greet you, and I would like to greet all the viewers of concerned citizen of South Sudan. And I greet you, Uncle Morwell, Atir Morwell. I haven't seen you for a long time. So I'm really excited. First of all, I would like to say to my brother, Dr. Biar Ajak, that well done. I congratulate you for a job well done in the Senate. We should thank people while people are still alive.
Absolutely.
This generation should think differently. We don't need to wait for people to die and then thank them. So I really thank you, Dr. Peter Biar, for your great effort and for your love for your country, South Sudan. This is what we, the young generation, have in our heart. We have to be loyal to the land of South Sudan and the people of South Sudan, not to individuals. So this is what I can say. Let me just throw in my perspective and then leave Uncle Morwell to say his point of view. Okay. I have two points to say. One, I've worked in the Ministry of Finance and I have seen what Dr. Peter Biar has developed with the team. The NDS, the National Development Strategy, is there. The issue with South Sudan is not because the documents are not written. The issue is implementation. And one of the examples is Honorable Stephen Dew. He was appointed by President Kiir to be the Minister of Finance. He's not perfect, but he's a great man with great ideas. He took this National Development Strategy and reviewed it. And I was one of the members in the team that reviewed the National Development Strategy for South Sudan. But the spoiler, I call Kor the spoiler. Kor had a disagreement with Stephen Dew, and Stephen Dew was kicked out because of Kor. So the whole plan collapsed. And it's very sad that the president can appoint you and Kor will come here tomorrow and you will be kicked out. This is what is happening. All these ministers that are kicked out, it is Kor who kicked them out. And Kiir, of course, listened to him because he's a good boy, he's doing his agenda. For example, when Honorable Stephen Dew was appointed by presidential decree to be the Minister of National Finance in South Sudan, President Kiir said this, and I will say it in Arabic also. He said, this man, Stephen Dew, is my last bullet to fix the economy and the issue of South Sudan in terms of Minister of Finance. Da rajal da akar talga btai. Da Kiir gal kalam da. Gal Stephen Dew da akar talga btai. Lo ma gder hel mishkila btai. Iktisad ana bajib kawajat to manage the economy. He said it with his own mouth in J1. And we have had it all in South Sudan. I was there in Juba in 2018. Now, somebody that President Kiir has trusted, Kor has to work against him and kick him out and put Salvatore that was fighting with the Kuraji. The reason why Stephen was kicked out, most people don't know. Stephen Dew called us in the boardroom and in the meeting in the National Ministry of Finance, and he said we are going to pay national security in South Sudanese pound. And that was the reason Kor refused South Sudanese pound to be given to national security. He threatened us in the Ministry of Finance, and he threatened Stephen Dew until Stephen Dew has to talk to Malong and others to rescue him. So a national security director that rejects pound, that rejects South Sudanese pound, to me, that was a big question to me. Is this man for South Sudan, or is this man for a different agenda? So if the national security refused to be paid in South Sudanese pound, that's a national security issue by itself, in my perspective. So Stephen Dew say salaries of this month should be given to national securities in pound, with the exception of of those in embassies, security attaches. Those are the people in national security that need dollars. But any national security within South Sudan, they should be paid by South Sudanese pound like any other public service. So that was the problem between Kolkor and Stephen Dio, Honorable Stephen Dio. And he managed to convince Kir, and he was kicked out. And I asked myself, what happened now? President Kir was saying in J1, Stephen Dio will not be taken away. Suddenly, when I call talk, they kick him out. So this man, Kolkor, is a dangerous man for South Sudan. And I know Kir is going to use him for some time, but he will be thrown out like Malong. Kir is good in using people, but he will throw him out soon.
Okay. Thank you, Moses.
That's what I can say. The last point concerning generational exit. I like the idea, but one of the challenges that I think is in our generation, these people, these generals, they have looted oil money. No matter how much money, no amount of money that we can give them to exit, because what they have looted is billions of dollars that this generation cannot afford even to give them, because what we will be giving them to exit politics would be like drop of water in an ocean. So they have already looted, they have compensated. So they will not listen to us if we tell them, sit down, exit, and we will pay you. Because what they have stolen is more than what we can give them. So that's the only challenge with the generational exit, but it is a great idea, and I'm supporting it. But the challenge is there. They have already looted money. They are the one now buying people to support them. So for us to compensate them, it is not. It will be just a drop of water in an ocean. So the way forward is, yes, we can campaign for election, but the way forward is popular uprising, political popular uprising to move President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar. And thank you so much. And I would like to give others chance, and I greet you all.
Thank you.
I will exit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Moses, for a very valid point that you have made. Now, I welcome Uncle Morwell, Ater Morwell, and I hope you are not feeling cold. Inagwir, I hope you are not feeling cold, because I see you. You are wrapping up yourself. Welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan, Uncle Morwell, and please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ustaz Jonkor Mayol. I'm really a bit cold here. We are starting the winter. It has started earlier with the elder people like myself. So it is morning here in Australia, in South Australia, or in Australia in general. I would like first to thank you again and thank the viewers, and thank Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, who just came and shed the light on the issues that concern our people in South Sudan. I have seen, I have watched Dr. Biar when he did his presentation in the Senate, and everybody was delighted about his presentation. We were all happy to hear from him, because he has experienced it, all the tyranny actions on him, and he reported others who are still now in Blue House under the ground. Everybody appreciated his effort to present the picture of the country, how it looks like now. My concern, I just woke up now, and you were finalizing his presentation with you, and I didn't get enough, but I had a lot when he presented in the American Senate. My question is to exit generational youth like yourself, like others. My question is, what is the mechanism to remove this government, since the opposition parties are not agreeing, are not united? what is the mechanism that we have now, so that we get support from our friends, from those who have stood with us all along our struggle until we got our independence. We got another sort of dictatorship, which is very selfish, and they don't care about the citizens who have fought for that country to be liberated and get their independence. What is our mechanism? Since we are not united as opposition, yes, they have did everything. They have robbed the country. They have killed the people. For us to remove them, what is the mechanism? This is my question all the time. And I've been calling all of you who are now in the social media, who have created those platforms, to work hardly to unite the voice of the opposition. Because this government is not simple. It is not like when we were fighting the South Sudanese or when we were fighting the North Sudan. We know them. They are Muslim, they are Arabs, they have their color. But the government that we are fighting they are our own brothers and sisters. We don't know them. Someone can be with you, but he is with the government. And this government also has used the material, the resources to fight us, to fight its own citizens, to buy weapons and kill the citizens. What is our position as opposition parties? We need to unite. We need to create a platform that brings us together to fight the government. Uprising will never happen in South Sudan for two reasons. One, the government is too brutal, as McQueen had said last time, that they don't have rubber bullets. They have live bullets to shoot. And at the same time, our people are really threatened and terrified to come out. You have seen last time with the red cards, when they attempted to do it, how many did they make it? They didn't make it. So for this reason, I don't see that the government will be removed without us to unite. If we unite, we can move. We can move the mountains. We can move this tyranny government. This is my question. So what is the way that we have to use as a tool? Of course, our way to use as a tool is our unity as opposition. Are we united now? If we look at those opposition now, you have seen Soma was to be effective, but the same government using the same tactics has divided us. Okay, so for you as new exit generation, what is the way forward for us to be supported by our friends? What is the way forward? What is the mechanism? This is my question.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Morwell. After Morwell, let me go ahead and tune to Charles so I can hear from his perspective. If you are done, I'm going to remove you because I have more people, Uncle Morwell, are coming to participate as well. So let me go ahead and do that. But Charles, go ahead with your perspective as well.
Hey, hi, brother. For a long time, brother.
I know, because the was giving hard time, but it seemed like it worked.
To my old friend, those of Dominic Aquay that are awake from Europe, man. I think they love your show today. It's really deep night, and people in Australia, the Marial and Moses, they're waking up early. And also, Brother Agany is typing very good here. It's fighting all front of the typing. And also, Abdullah Garen, say hi to you. It's a long time, man. Texas, we've been locked down so badly. Now our governor came up with some weird, everything is 100%, even though it's not 100%, but it depends on you. I will thank Brother Peter today for this show of today, for encouragement to come out. And, I know you've been looking for him for so long, since he came in December or the late of November. And I think what he was saying, he will be surprised Some people will say this is surprise. Some people will say this is accusation. But if you were in the bush before, you will know this is the reality. This is the reality of our leaders. Brother Junkur, you know it. I was one of the members of the SPLM, Ajak. And when those of Selfa, those of Victoria, those of the Lamakol, when they used to talk to us in the schools, they are giving us the dreams that you are the generation of the future. You know, we will tear down the South, the Sudan, and you guys are going to rebuild it. Unfortunately, what happened, things changed because of the leadership, resources in their hands, and country went to the chaos. Nobody knows. Hassel in Sudan. We were not thought of it. It will happen in our future life. To see our people are dying like this at Junko. You know, people are just becoming hatred to each other. And this is what designed by our people. They liberated themselves. They're the one who designed this war. Al-Qaeda al-Hassel, they design it and then they just issue to the public. For Mafi surprise here. Inshallah, what I was saying, in any new government will come out in the future, the first thing has to be demolished is the blue house. Should the blue house has to be demolished for good. We could mail with a zira. ما يكون مال بتاع الدم بتاع الناس كل لازم يكون مال بتاع الزراعة ويكون مزرعة كويس عشان الشعب بتاع جنوب السودان يقدر يعرف ليه مزرعة ده كويس and people will write about their stories. So حاجات ما make up whatever it was mounted and in the Dufa with the national security. And you know, Junko, this Juba, I'm far away from America, but we are observing everything. Even Self-Akir, we are know it. And in Ashafin Kir, got a noon shouldn't meet in part of J1. When did he went to J1 and when he don't went to J1? The man now has been in the office for what? Almost 2 weeks. Got to bed. You know, like he said, there's boy, mashallah, who's running the country, the national security. You know? But هنا what I was saying to my shabab, واحد حاجة همين خالد. It is not problem to have different opposition. I'm not in the mishkal on that. I'm not objective that. You can have the parties, but at the end, objective could one. One objective to change that regime. They are hamahaja in the name. You can be so many parties. That's not a problem. But the regime has to fall. What to shoot at Tagati with our regime, what they are doing. You know, regime, he loved Hajisum coming to Allah Hukuma behave Hajisum coming together. But Allah Hukuma ma behave Hajisum being together, Self-Ma behave Hajisum working together. Coming together, that's the Hajj Quaid, he love it. Today, Salamai, you are welcome. We will sign agreement with you. We will Rasulullah Tairat, Jibu for Juba, but being together in Juba, working together in Juba, it will not happen. The Hajj Rama Biasir. You know, it will not happen. So what matter you sign agreement with Salva-Kiir, you can be excited. I know also like what happened in Somalia and Malone. Malone will roll in, it will happen. Like, do you think that is going to have what? They should do low position, but do low security, anything. They will never implement anything. Extension after extension. The only solution, we need to focus how Hakuma de Black. There's a lot of assurance. Nena barahina, we yes. Fina gugul haja da mustahil, lakin rabbana bifta through. Okay, this administration, altum shayafin al-jafi America, it is just a matter of the time and policy that Junub Sudan is already be rolled out. A lot policy that Junub Sudan is on the table to show to Wazara Khariji. So it will come out. Haja jayed la bara and halakuma issue. Okay, election now Google impossible. Lay Google impossible. Mafi haja when sign agreement in 2018. Maria Riek Machar, you know, which is chapter 5. Accountability. Accountability lemun. If your name is there, you've been called. I nadu fi mahakama qabla election. Okay? For lazim nukun in the hope wituma la opposition there. Ya khwana $1 de gurisaki. You know? Don't allow yourself to be just remote because of the money. You see, the haq butak ma the sanu bara. El haq lazim kalum. Selfa lazim good. Even uncle butak of your brother, but your dad, you have to face him the truth. Junub Sudan, it costs 2 million point something. People die. Another mat fi kullu arad butak Junub Sudan. لو انت إكتوريا انت من على النيل انت من بارغزال جبال نوبة ناس بعد بكلام ما أقول we can allow 1% of the creek عشان يلعبوا في الدول ويلعبوا براسنا عشان جاز by 2023 ما في عربية بيجري بجاز ثاني and you know it 2023 عربات بيطلع برا 2023 they're not going to use this gas anymore so the gas would be nothing. You know, the world is turning. What they are doing now, they are looting. They want to loot us. وفي شباب هنا they decided they are typing down in the قبيلة بتاعي the أسرة بتاعي the uncle بتاعي it will not help. ما بيساعدنا بصراحة كده. فأجيكم أنا بشكرك. الشغل اللي عملته ده حاجة كويس. My problem أنا عندي مشكلة مع opposition. Opposition ده الناس بتاع طمع بتاع just they love حاجة اسمه position. That's it. You know, وده أروح ذاته اللي بخلينا ما نشجعهم. We you know, there's a big problem in our opposition, especially opposition بتاع SPLM دين. أنا بوري لكم ترى يا أخوان, opposition بتاع SPLM, all the members of the SPLM, إنتم شايفينهم من قاعد يطلعوا كده زي شجر, they أشجار إنه فروده. These people are the same coin. They are the same coin. Nobody believing will change it. جنوب السودان عشان يطلع كويس, ده ما leader بتاع SPLM again يجي فوق. وفي زول ممكن نقول ليه زول بيتكلم زي I was grown in SPLM and I was part of it لكن أنا ما شغال في حكومة لكن لا it's over. فجنكر نحن دايرين حكومة دي لازم الشعب بتاع جنوب السودان يختار زول من دايرين ولا إن شاء الله لو جاب من قبيلة صغير في جنوب السودان إن شاء الله لو أصغر قبيلة وزول طلع بحاجة كويس نحن هنجيب وراه because everything is finished. لكن لو أنتم قاعدوا تقولوا قال في زول تاني من SPLM will بيجيب تغيير ما في زول بيجيب تغيير. And this is my word يا برا جنكو. But thank you for that. But أنا بقول لك شنو في حاجات كتير جاي يحصل. You're gonna hear it. We're not gonna talk to me. وأنا نتكلم بالباقي هناك. But next show ما دانا نلخبط the show. We don't want to confuse you with other show. But okay. Next show there are a lot of things coming out, brother. A lot of things.
Thank you, Charles, for your perspective. I want to go ahead and give my brother Emmanuel Wani a chance as well, and then we move on from here. Let's see who next also. Emmanuel Wani, welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. I know you are far, but you are waking up in the middle of the night, you know, to be on this and to weigh in your perspective as well. Please, Emmanuel, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. I thank the concerned citizens of South Sudan as concerned citizens, and you too, my brother. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And you know what is happening in our nation. You cannot sleep. You know, I've been in one of a meeting because of suffering of our children in the nation of South Sudan. People are dying. You go in America, our South Sudanese are living in tents. They are homeless, and we ask ourselves what is happening in everything. So we cannot sleep, you know, and that's why I really apologize to join you late. But I stand with my brother Charles. You know, one thing that the SPLM government, in Juba will never be remembered with the generation of the youth in the nation of South Sudan. Why I'm saying this? They have betrayed us. They have used the youth to take arms and betray, and they start killing themselves because they know that these are the citizens. These are the youth that tomorrow they will stand and carry out, and they will raise up the flag of the nation of South Sudan all over the world. That is one. One, I have spoken to myself, I will never believe in any SPLM, whether SPLM, whether and all that. Whether it all this political, whether you are in which political, you are from your rebel group, for me, I don't believe. Because people believe when I take arm, I will be given a position in the government of Salva Kiir. They are not taking this position because they want to bring peace to the nation of South Sudan. They're just looking for themselves. They are looking for position so that they can grab what they want to grab, not for the entire interest of the nation of South Sudan. When you look at whatever that has been happening in Soma and all that, look, the two groups have break out. They are broken out from the Soma. Why? Because Monderakulo. They are there because they say we One nation, one people. Which is one nation, one people? When you have your own interests, you need a position that is going to serve your family. Let the youth, let the South Sudanese see what is happening. Zola Derja system because he need a position, and then you break out in the system and you says you are going to unite the South Sudanese. Campaigning, the campaigning of what? And we know my call goes to the South Sudanese. I thank God for Biar, who really today had really opened our mind. As a youth, there is a time that let us not allow any hungry leader in the department, whether it's in which department, because all these people who are broken away and they created the rebel groups and all that, they were in the system of the Salva Kiir. They're in that regime. But today they're the one insulting Salva Kiir, the dictator, the regime of this, whatever that. But they don't know that we have lost over thousands, millions of the innocent South Sudanese. Fi aradita Junub Sudan de, mafi gebila mamutu. 64 tribes, every day people are dying. And people are here, they want to, I have signed this, how many peace agreement that they are going to sign? So let them first think about the suffering of the people of South Sudan. Let them think of these people who are even in the refugee camp. You go and collect firewood, you are raped and you are killed. You go and fetch the water and you are also raped and you are killed. Before you go and sign agreements, you sign agreement today, it fail. We still have the national government. The national government, transitional government of national unity. There is nothing that even has been formed, and you go and sign other document. What is the meaning of this agreement? It's just to play around with the heads of the South Sudanese. But this is the time that as a youth of the nation of South Sudan, let's wake up. Let this politician not give you guns and you go and betray other tribes. It is a time, and I always tell people that the voice of youth in the nation of South Sudan is bigger than the guns, is bigger than the tanks that the Salva Kiir has today in the government in Juba. Because the voice of the youth, when they stand together as 64 tribes, the government, even when they have, what I know in South Sudan, there's no rubber bullet, there's no tear gas. What they have is a live bullet. But the question is, will this government kill all of us if we are united? People ask, how are we going to remove Salva Kiir? To remove the Salva Kiir is unity. When the people who are united, you don't think I'm Equatoria, I am from Baragazal, the people who are in the system, then they are the one. There is a time for us to wake up and unite ourselves. I love these Arabs. These Arabs, when there is something, if there is something that they need to deal with it, they first unite themselves and push that thing away, and they look at their differences, So this is a time as a South Sudanese. We should not leave these politicians to betray our nation, to betray our mothers, to betray our children. The children that are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow in the nation of South Sudan, they are the ones running in the street. They have no schools. They have no medical care. They are there. Look at the innocent woman in Upper Nile who have nowhere to sleep. Look at the woman who is in the camp internally in your own country. Before these people who say they are signing a peace, one people, one nation. What do you mean by one people, one nation? When in our own country we become IDPs? Internally displaced in our own country. One thing that I want to tell people today, Salva Kiir is not an elected president. Salva Kiir was appointed. Because why? Salva Kiir is fearing to go for election, because he knows that he will, because of all these that happened, he will never go through. That's why, because of these people who want the position in himself, they went and signed an agreement. Yes, we have agreed you to be in for 3 years before we go for election, because they don't think about the suffering of the South Sudanese. They are thinking about their families. But the point is this: Salva Kiir was appointed, was not elected by the South Sudanese. Salva Kiir, we voted it was separation from Sudan, but not Salva Kiir. Salva Kiir is there by appointment. It's not legitimated, but by the people of South Sudan. And for that reason, the thing is, Emmanuel Wani, people don't understand between the election in 2010 and the referendum. Some people, they mix it up. They think
Kiir was elected as the president of South Sudan. No, Kiir was elected as the president of the region of South Sudan because South Sudan
Yes.
had a autonomy. That's why he's elected. But when we gained independence as July 9, 2011, South Sudanese in parliament, they came together and they said, okay, it could continue, carry on until 2015, and then we have election. But a lot of less understanding. South Sudanese, they don't get that point, you know. Go ahead, my brother. You want to give chance to Wendy Marial also? Just go ahead, 1 minute, and then I want to bring more people. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Because why I brought this, that people of South Sudan should understand that Salva Kiir was not legitimately elected by the people of South Sudan. We voted for separation, and we voted for separation, and the parliament endorsed him to continue so that he can be what if he has an interest to lead the country, then he will be elected, and he has to campaign for people to vote him as a president. But because of all that, people think that the only way that they can be in that system and through causing war, and then we will wait. As they said that the election is coming, we'll see another war coming because they don't want to do what? To leave that seat. And then one thing that as I conclude, let the people of South Sudan unite themselves, no matter where you are coming from. Let's first forget our differences and we meet the enemy ahead of us. When we are united, a united minority will be able to put that regime in Juba out of the sea. And that's my last word. Let's unite together and fight our battle. That's my word.
Amen, Wani. Unity is the only solution. If we're more united, we'll be able to make a breakthrough. Without unity, everyone fighting on his own, we're not going to get anywhere. Thank you, my dear brother. I am glad you came in back today and weigh in your perspective. Let me go with Wendy Marial. Wendy Marial, welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. It's good to see you. And I know you're going to give us a taste of Arabic because we have been continuing the English for a very long time. So Wendy Marial, Concerned Citizen of South Sudan, it's your turn now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to thank Dr. Biar Ajak for his testimony. It's great to see our young people, reach that level of understanding and express our concern to the world. I appreciate whatever you done, my brother, and I will support everything that you do to make our message heard. Okay. للناس انا هتكلم بالعربي. للناس ما فهموا البرنامج ده كله من الاول. دكتور بيار أجاك هو كان معتقل في البلو هاوس بتاع ناشونال سيكيورتي لمده سنه و6 شهور وطلع.
I hope you remember because it's cutting off. I don't know. It's doing the same.
Not again, please.
Go ahead, تفضل.
Not again. So it's keep crashing, is it?
Yeah, I keep doing that. But go ahead, continue now. تفضل.
Yeah. هو كان معتقل في البلو هاوس بتاع كولاكور وقعد فيه سنة و6 شهور واعتقل ومشى كلاجئ سياسي لأمريكا. هو قبل يومين عمل شهادة في المجلس بتاع الشيوخ الأمريكا، أعتقد قسم الخارجية بتاع مجلس الشيوخ، على الأوضاع الاقتصادية والأمنية والنظام السياسي اللي عمله سلفا كير في البلد. إنه هو قال سلفا كير ما منتخب، وده أنت النقطة اللي ذكرت فيه، إنه كان ما انتخبه من قبل الشعب بتاع جنوب السودان، هو انتخبه داخل السودان القديم. وكان مفهوم في الزمن ده إنه الحركة الشعبية لازم يتمسك بالقيادة بتاعه، عشان كده اختاروا سلفا كير وريك مشار وكل الشله بتاع الحركه الشعبيه في الزمن ده عشان يقدر يديروا حكومه بتاع الجنوب. الالكشن اللي عملوه في 2009 او 2010 I think ما جاب تغيير حتى في السودان القديم، ما غير البشير، ما غير النظام بتاعه ولا غير البرلمان، اضاف ناس معينين داخل البرلمان. فبالتالي يا جنوبيين عشان تفهم الفرق بين الانتخابات والابوينتمنت، الزول ده عملوا له ابوينتمنت من قبل الحركه الشعبيه داخل السودان القديم. اذا نحن انتخبنا كنا انتخبنا الكير والبشير توجذر، في انتخابات عامه. سلفا كير جاء فاز في
كرئيس
الجنوب
لإقليم وليس رئيس الدولة.
الاقليم الجنوبي، وليس رئيس لدوله بتاع جنوب السودان بالمؤسسات بتاعها. اوكي، عشان الناس تقدر تفهم. انا عارف ناس النظام منهم امبارح عاملين جوطه انه كيف ما عملوا الكتد وجاب نسبه كم 90%. انا ما عارف النسبه ده جابوا 200. احنا كنا ما عندنا مواضيع بتاع انتخابات.
لا مشكلة شنو يا زي ما انا ذكرت قبل، عندنا ناس كثيرين ما فاهمين بين الانتخابات الإقليمية وانتخابات بتاع الدولة، انتخابات العامة. انتخابات 2010 كان انتخابات في ظل الإقليم. جنوب السودان كان إقليم autonomy region. اوكي، سو سلفا كير هي كامبين عشان يكون رئيس لإقليم في الفترة ذاك. ما كان رئيس. جنوب السودان بقى دولة بتين. جنوب السودان بقى دولة يوم 9 شهر 7 2011. ده جنوب السودان بقى. So since then ما في انتخابات أقيمت في دولة جنوب السودان حتى الآن. So سلفا كير لم ينتخب من قبل الشعب السوداني الجنوبي. ده كلام مفروض الناس يفهموا. لكن الناس المفهوم ضيق هم ما عارفين. That's why they mix. They say, oh, well, it was elected 93, 97, whatever, because they don't know. They don't know. You know, تملك المعلومات مرات حاجة مهمة جدا جدا عشان زول يتملك ويقدر يفهم، عشان لما يسألوه بيقدر بيجاوب كويس. هم عشان ما عارفين بس بيقولوا خلاص يا أخي I was elected. حتى كير ذاته قال يدخل الناس في الليمبو وبيقول يا أخي أنا I was elected. You know, he was not elected as the president of the republic.
He wasn't elected.
So كمل يا أخوي. كمل يا أخوي عشان ندي أخونا شنكوت. ندي أخونا شنكوت الفرصة كمان عشان هو يتكلم.
Yeah, hello brother. How are you?
I'm very good.
Okay,
Very good.
عشان نختصر الكلام ده كله، فدكتور بيار أدى الشهادة بتاعه في مجلس الشيوخ على الأوضاع الأمنية والسياسية داخل جنوب السودان. وطبعا الشق الأمني في الموضوع ده النقطة اللي أنا داير أتكلم فيه يعني باختصار جدا جدا. الشق الأمني والشق بتاع الحكومة الصينية مع الجهاز الأمن. أوكي يا جماعة، النظام ده هو ما نظام بيحمي القانون بتاع المواطن، ما بيحمي الحريات، ما بيحمي أمنك، ما بيحمي المزرعة بتاعك، ما بيحمي بقرك. بالعكس، النظام ده هو أدى يعني بيرسل رسالة بتاع فوضى شامل، إنه أي زول عنده سلاح مفروض ياخذ القانون بيده وما يتحاكم. وإذا أنت تكلمت الدكتور بيار أجاك تكلم إنه الحكومة بقت توزع الأسلحة وبقت تشجع الفوضى وبقت تشجع الفساد، الناتج بتاعه شنو؟ دخلوا في المعتقل، وما هو برا في اختفاءات قسرية، في إعدامات خارج القانون، في تعذيب بدني ونفسي، وفي ثقافة على الاغتصابات. الحاجات ده ما موجودة في الكاشة بتاعنا إلا النظام بتاع كير ده، والنظام قال كوريا هو جاب الكلام ده. ليه؟ اوكي، حقوق الانسان، الصين معروف انها ما بتتكلم عن حقوق الانسان، وبتساند اي نظام بينتهك حقوق الانسان على الاقل انه مصالح بتاعه يكون مرتبطه معه. فده يا جماعه دوله بيسجن شباب بتاعه وبيسجن المفكرين بتاعه وبيطرد المثقفين عبر العالم زي الدكتور بيار ده، المفروض يكون في بلد الناس تستفيد منه. بيطرد ليه؟ وفي ناس كتار معتقلين، مثقفين، مثقفين، مفكرين معتقلين. البلد ده هيصلح كيف اذا هو الشباب بتاعه بيطرد من البلد، واذا هو الشباب بتاعه بيتعدم بدون اجراءات قانونيه. انا ما مؤيد فكره الانتخابات اطلاقا، وده الحته ان احنا بنختلف فيه مع دكتور بيار. الانتخابات ما بيقدر يقود لتغيير حقيقي داخل البلد، وما بيقدر يغير اي حاجه بالاجهزه الامنيه وكل النظام ده كله ما بيقدر يغير. والنظام ده ما بيقدر يعمل له ريفورم. الريفورم منو؟ الريفورم ده اللي بيجيبها قرارات، والريفورم بيخلي رياض مشار يكون بايت بريزيدنت فور ايفر. رياض مشار مش طلع عشان ريفورم، طلع هسه ودخل نفس الفنادق والريفورم. نحن لاجئين عبر العالم وين الريفورم؟ المعسكرات الداخليه النوير كلهم موجودين في معسكرات يونميس، في زول طلع منه وين الريفورم؟ ما في انتخابات بيقود لتغيير حقيقي يا جماعه، ونكون واضحين من الكلام ده، انه اي حركه ماسك سلاح بيزيد الطين بله. احنا كشباب بنتكلم ان احنا واعيين، زي الدكتور بيار ده ممكن يكون غايب، زي ده جونكو ممكن تكون غايب. احنا all enough. فالتغيير لازم يطلع منكم يا شباب في قصه بتاع اليونتي والوحده الوطنيه بتاعنا، انه نقدر نشخص الامراض بتاعنا الاجتماعيه ونقدر نتفق ونقود البلد. ما كفايه نكون يعني بنصفق للجنرالات كله بيجيبوا حرب كل يوم. شكرا جزيلا وشكرا لكل المشاهدين.
شكرا وندي مريال للبرسبكتيف بتاعك، جاي كلام توضيح جميل جدا جدا. وما زال هنالك بعض من الافراد طبعا هم ما فاهمين زي ما انا قلت قبل. They are still saying that actually, oh, President Kiir, Dr. Lama called, they competed, but they don't know what kind of election they were competing. People don't know what kind of election they were competing. They don't know between the region and the country. They don't know what is taking their mind. Oh, Kiir كان في الانتخابات مع Dr. Lama called وكده. But they don't know. جنوب السودان ما كانت دولة. South Sudan was not a country that time. It was region. Southern Sudan with a small s, not with big S. Now we say with big S, the Republic of South Sudan. These are the people that we have to work on them. We have to work on them hard to make them understand. Because they are less understanding, as my brother, Moses put it last time. They need to understand the differences. Kiir was not elected as the president of the Republic of South Sudan. It was there by mandate, just mandate. Okay. Thank you, Wendy Marial. Chankwat, welcome to Consensus in South Sudan. I know you were down there writing a lot. أنا داير أديك. I want to give you an opportunity. Come on to weigh in. كيف حالك؟ أخبارك شنو؟
Not much, man. Not much. There's not a lot of news.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I know he speaks Arabic.
He does. He does. Okay. تفضل يا Chankwat.
Thank you, Brother Jonkur. I'm happy to attend your show once again. Thanks to all the speakers before me. And it was a great show, I have to say. It was a great show, and you can tell by the participation of all our people. Sometime when we do something great, we have to acknowledge it. Now coming to pay my perspective on the issue. Generally, I believe the interview was well taken. You have done great in how you highlighted some of the statements and asked questions. When it comes to the main topic itself, on how you interview our brother, you have conducted yourself really well. Now let me come to the topic, which was conveyed to us by Dr. Biar. Sometimes, although we disagree, we must also agree on certain points.
Absolutely.
Yes. Generally, I will say I can agree and disagree. More importantly, Brother Jonkur, I disagree with some of the points that I've heard today from our brother and Dr. Biar. I know majority of us might not agree with my input, but all in all, we are here to disagree and agree.
Correct.
Brother Junkur, we all know the beginning of all this upset in South Sudan. The reason as to why our country is in a mess, we know it. Sometime when we want to play politics and we want to be politically correct, it is another way of giving a rise to more problems. Why am I saying this? Brother or Dr. Biar knows exactly what he has faced and where he has been. And today, if he got this chance that he was taken away from South Sudan, he escaped punishment or even death, he should be a voice that is there to tell the truth not a biased voice. According to the interview, Dr. Biar is a bit biased, and he also contradicted himself on numerous occasions. You might agree, and you might also disagree. According to the statements of Dr. Biar, I know it's Peter, but his surname is Biar. Some people are getting asking me question why I keep saying Biar.
No problem.
So his surname is Biar. So Dr. Biar has contradicted himself on numerous occasions tonight. There was an occasion where he was talking about the National Dialogue Resolution. Brother Jonkor, the National Dialogue Resolution is not a resolution that we can applaud, we the people of South Sudan.
Why? It's coming from South Sudanese people, Jankwat.
Yes. Why? Because those who were handpicked by Salva Kiir, they were given a mission. And the resolution of that national dialogue was never a voice that is representing the interests of the people of South Sudan. Those steering committee, they have never visited all the corners of South Sudan. And therefore, any resolution of
only two counties they did not visit.
Well, you can say that, but I know where I come from, and when I say I know where I come from, I don't mean the county or the constituency. I know where I generate my points. According to what I know, the resolution which was brought forth by the steering committee is a one-man resolution. It is a resolution that was created by those of Abelalir to satisfy the ego of Salva Kiir and the JCE elites. And therefore, it should not be regarded as a resolution that is representing the interests of all the people of South Sudan. That's one thing I have to say tonight.
But what do you agree? What your disagreement with the national dialogue? Because the national dialogue resolution is very clear that people of South Sudan have suffered enough, and then there is a need for these two leaders. We cannot be hostage to them. They need to step aside. So your point of view is because Riek has to go with Kiir. That's why you disagree. You wanted to rush them.
I'm going to come to that as well. So just be patient. Let me go one point at a time. I say the resolution by the steering committee is a biased position. It was a resolution that is only taken to support the position of Salva Kiir. How do they support the position of Salva Kiir? Remember, over the years, Salva Kiir always say that if he leaves with everybody together. If he mess everything up, that means everybody that is working in the Republic of South Sudan will be messed up as well. So today, if the committee come up with a resolution that says that Salva Kiir is going to go, Riek will go, Pagan will go, this resolution should not be adopted because it is only geared to make sure that they satisfied what Salva Kiir was looking for. You cannot tell me because Salva Kiir has messed everything up, the rest of the people of South Sudan are messed up. Second to that, Brother Jonkor, we are tired of this double blame game. When we always come on media and instead of us being honest to our core on how this situation came into being, how we found ourselves in this abscess of messes, if we cannot be able to tell the truth, we are not going to be able to unite our country and bring peace to the people of South Sudan. The other thing that I have to mention in the interview, Brother Biar or Dr. Biar was talking about generational exit. Some people might be questioning, because in South Sudan, people will not understand what is meant by the term generational exit. who are you going to eliminate so that the next generation is going to come up into the power?
I think he explained that, right?
Yeah, I know, and I'm explaining my point.
Okay.
My point here is that when we campaign for a generational exit, we are going to allow vacuum. And once we allow vacuum, South Sudan will continue to suffer because there are vacuums that will never, or that were never occupied. When you talk about generational exit, Brother Junko, who are you going to chase away and who are you going to leave? Now, when you talk about generational exit, do you mean everyone in the government must go, and Jonkor and Chankos and Biar and Deng will come in? Is that the generational exit that we are talking about? Because one thing I understand in the world of politics, there has to be transition. You cannot tell me a certain generation must exit and the next generation will come in.
I hate to interject, to put the point across. But actually, Chankot, Dr. Peter Biar, Ajak explained the generational exit, what it meant, what it meant be that President Kiir, his vice president, they have been there in power for 16 years. You and I and Dengit and others, they know this. There's no developmental project in the country. There is no clean water. There is no hospital. There is no road. There is no all these things. So they don't have what it takes, to take this country from point A to point B. And that's why that opportunity for younger South Sudanese like Chankwat, like Dengit Ayok, Peter Biar Ajak, those who have knowledge for developmental, to do something that needed to be done. So South Sudanese can live with justice, liberty, and prosperity. South Sudanese can have the aspiration of movement, what needed to be done, exactly. And we are not enjoying anything. South Sudanese are not. So I don't know, when you say that it is going to be a vacuum, I don't understand how it's going to be a vacuum. These people, they have been there for a very long time. And of course, any transition to take place, there is a plan. And actually, Dr. Peter Biar had explained it well. Okay. I'm not here to defend him, but he did actually. Go ahead.
All right, Brother Jonkor. I understand sometimes we South Sudanese.
I'm not being biased.
No. I'm not talking about you. I say we South Sudanese.
Go ahead.
When we hear different views, our sentiment get aroused. And that is not a good thing. We cannot be yes men, all of us. When Dr. Biar Ajak came here tonight, all of us cannot just join the boat and say Dr. Biar Ajak was right. Indeed, he was wrong at some incidents. So what I will say here, according to what I know, for us to have a reform or for us to have a change in the Republic of South Sudan, the current peace agreement must be implemented. I was happy that he mentioned the position adopted by the United Nations Security Council, that
last night
the current peace agreement must be implemented. Why is it important, Brother Jonkor, that the current peace agreement is to be implemented? Because it has stipulated clearly the ways forward and how we can reach to an elections. For us to call for an elections, the peace agreement must be implemented and thriving. When we create shortcuts, if we refuse to implement the agreement, how are we going to conduct elections? I heard Brother Biar was talking about conducting elections in South Sudan. You cannot conduct election under the regime of Salva Kiir. It will not be free and fair elections. It's going to be an election that is rigged. And he even mentioned the elections which was currently done in Uganda. I did not hear his position about that elections. But according to the results in Uganda, if that was in South Sudan, today we would be killing ourselves. Why? Because there has been an election that has been rigged in Uganda. But the Ugandan people might not be South Sudanese. We are very different. If we continue to advocate for elections without implementing this peace agreement, then Dr. Biar cannot be right. He cannot be right because personally, as Chankot, as other parties, we are not going to support that notion because there are no playing field. There is no fairness in the Republic of South Sudan that will allow us to run a free and fair elections. So that means if we continue to advocate for elections now, then what we are asking for is Salva Kiir to continue to be our president for the next 5 years. What I want us to do, if Biar is listening,
he is listening.
He has to use his voice to advocate for a full implementation of the peace agreement. Because this implementation of the agreement, once it's implemented, it will give us a conducive environment where we can actually go and play fairness in our political arenas. Without doing so, when we continue to call for elections, in other ways, we are brooding more chaos in future. Because if Salva Kiir rigged these elections, we are going back to war because we are not going to accept rigging elections in South Sudan. That is my statement that I will say.
Yeah. Well, Chankot, thank you so much for coming in and weighing in. Like I said, I'm giving everyone, a few. I gave you more, of course. I just weigh in your point of view. And also, I want to tell our viewers that I have to run. I'm going to be going somewhere for a funeral, tonight. There is a sad news that actually I have received, overnight that someone have passed away. So, Ustad Dengid Ayok, welcome to Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. I want to give you an opportunity as well, to go ahead and weigh in. And it's good to have you in the studio. Go ahead, Ustad Dengid.
Thank you, Mr. Jonkor, for welcoming me. I thank all the viewers of Concerned Citizen of South Sudan for tuning in to listen to us and the issues that are being discussed here tonight. I am here to make my comments on what Dr. Peter Biar shared with us.
Yes.
My points are 5. I will go through them very quickly.
Go ahead.
Point number 1 is to give thanks and appreciation to Dr. Peter Biar Ajak for the great and wonderful job he has done advocating for our case in the world. That is a great step. That is a great political lift that must be applauded and must be commended. Making that presentation in front of the US Senate and talking about a new political paradigm shift in South Sudan through elections so that South Sudan can witness a new political pace is a great step that must be appreciated. And this is what we always say in this forum, that we need political change in our country. So we appreciate him for the great work he is doing and for being a voice to all South Sudanese. The interview was great, and all the questions that were asked were relevant. Now, the point I would like to make in the interview, or before I make this point, Peter Biar talked about the freedom of press in South Sudan, and he mentioned an example of a young man who wrote an article and was arrested. That young man was the person who's speaking here right now. It was me who was arrested and thrown into the dungeons of national security in the Blue House. That was in November 2011. So he might have forgot my name, but that was me. So I also had my political experience, detention, and all the situation he talked about, sleeping on the floor, a very cold floor, sharing the floor with rats, because I was put into a cell that was close to a store, a bean store. There were beans, some janjaro were being kept in a store near to my cell. So rats were very active. At night, they come run around, and the issue of light being put off at night and food being given to you once a day, all those things, he actually reminded me of what I underwent in 2011. Yeah, what I want to say is this. Dr. Peter Biar talked about what he called generational exit. And the explanation he gave concerning this, I think, was enough. And what I want to add is this. This issue of generational exit is actually based on the words of the liberators themselves during the time of armed struggle in the bush. There are so many videos. You see Dr. John Garang Mabior, William Nguyen Bany Machar, Salva Kiir Mayardit, Lual Dingwal, addressing the Jaish Ahmar in Peñudo, in Dima, in other places, and they were telling Jaish Ahmar that our work is to liberate the country. After the liberation is done, you will be the leaders. So I think Dr. Biar based his concept of generational exit on the words of the liberation leaders that they used to tell Jaish Ahmar in those areas which I mentioned. And the good thing is that those videos are still there. But then after the liberation process was over, those who were saying that we will go and sit down and you will be the leaders are the ones who are still running the affairs of our country today. And therefore, Peter Biar Ajak calls for generational exit comes as a reminder to the liberators that you once promised us during the time of the army struggle in the bush, that once the liberation is over, you will not cling to power. You will give us the responsibility. Now that time has come. You have to go and we have to take over. It is based on this reality. And I'm very happy with the way he described it. He said that it is a practical idea. It is something practical. It is not a political theory or a political philosophy. It is an idea or a concept, and it is practical. I agree with him on that point. There is a question asked by Uncle Morwell, Ater Morwell. He was saying, what is the mechanism for generational exit? In other words, he was saying, what is the mechanism for change in South Sudan? And I think this is a question that should be debated here. People have to talk about this and we have to debate, because it is going to lead us into exchanging ideas on how this new political paradigm shift could be realized in South Sudan. Yeah. And if we are going to talk about the realization of this new political paradigm shift, then we must talk about the mechanism that we will use in order to realize this new political dispensation in our country. So it is irrelevant questions, and I think it is the essence, it should be the essence of our debate here, because we are all talking about change.
Yes.
And if your time was to allow you to continue, I would like to suggest that Dr. Biar should come back and make his comment on this, that what is the mechanism for generational exit. Okay, should come back and talk more, because what we are doing here is a political debate. We are sharing ideas on how political transition can be made so that the way is paid for democracy in South Sudan, because currently there is a political deadlock in the country. Machar and Kir have imposed themselves on the people of South Sudan, and as a result of them imposing themselves, there is now a political deadlock according to the findings and outcomes of the national dialogue. And therefore, this dialogue, I mean, this political deadlock must be broken so that we find a new way beyond this darkness that has engulfed us, this darkness or this decade of a political nightmare that has engulfed the whole country since 2005 until the present. I mean, since 2011 until 2021. So this one must be very clear. So if you have time, let Dr. Peter Biar come back and shed more light on this, on the issue of mechanism that was asked by Elder Uncle Morwell, Ater Morwell. This one is very important. Now, there is a great deal of a debate on this issue of generational exit, because Chankwas was here a little while ago, and he was asking a question, and I think his question is rational, that how could you ask the whole generation to exit, and then a new generation takes over? And as I was listening to him very carefully, he actually looked politically he looked politically insecure, because he was saying that if you ask the entire generation, the old generation, to get out, and then a new generation comes in, this will cause a political vacuum in the country. I would like to respond to Chankwat by telling him that I want to use the words of Bob Marley.
That's the
Bob
right.
Marley said, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery." But I will not use the word slavery here for Chankwas, because Chankwas is not a slave, or he's not under any mental slavery. So I would a little bit change the word of Bob Marley by saying, "Emancipate yourself from mental confinement." Mental political confinement.
There is a term that
why? Yes.
Political insecure. We have a lot of leaders in South Sudan. Actually, they have that kind of, issues. Political insecure. That's the right term.
He is politically insecure, and he gets panic whenever he hears us saying that Dr. Machar must go. Why should you argue that Machar should continue in power? What about you yourself, Chankwas? If Dr. Machar go, are you not going to replace him? Are you not a leader? Are you not capable of being a leader? Why should you always argue that Dr. Machar must be in power? He shouldn't be in power. And therefore, I'm going to now add another issue to this, because I'm here to spark a debate. We have to argue. Another point I would like to add is this. Those like Chankwad are saying this. They are saying that first Vice President Dr. Riek Machar is not as guilty as President Salva Kiir Mayardit, and therefore Kiir must go alone, and Machar should continue in leadership. This one is wrong. Who told you that Machar is not as equally is not guilty equally as Salva Kiir is guilty? They share this guilt. They are what? They are partners in crime. Machar is Kir's partner in crime. Kir is Machar's partner in crime. The crime of killing the nation, the crime of corruption, the crime of human rights violations and atrocities. And therefore, they have to go. No one should come here and tell me that Kir is more guilty than Machar, and therefore Kir is the one to go, and then Machar has to remain in leadership. This is completely wrong, and I would not agree with anyone who would come here and defend Riek Machar, that Riek Machar is the clean leader, and that Riek Machar is an angel. This is not true, and I would never agree with anyone arguing in such a way. Both of them are guilty. They are equally guilty. It is not about who killed first, and then who killed the South Sudanese secondly. I know they are going to tell me that Salva Kiir was the one who started killing Nuer. Yes, he was the one who started killing Nuer. And then Dr. Machar on his side killed the Dinkas as a retaliatory process. But what the big one is, whether it is Kiir who initiated killing our people, the Nuer people in South Sudan, or Machar was the one who started killing, then I would like to say that killing is killing. And if I would like to quote the Holy Bible, it is very clear. In the 10th commandment, it is clear. It is said, "Thou shalt not kill." So all of them are killers. So if they are killers, they are equally guilty, and therefore they must all go. South Sudan cannot depend on these two gentlemen. They are the problem, and they have to go. So when Dr. Biar says that, when Dr. Biar called for generational exits, he is actually right. And these old generations of the liberators have to go, and the new generation, the young minds, have to come up to run the affairs of the country, so that this country is launched into the promised land of freedom, justice, equality, prosperity for all South Sudanese. This one must be made very clear. On the issue of election, people are confused, and I thank you very much for making that clarification, Mr. Jonkor. People mix up the 2010 elections and the 2015 elections. What happened in 2010, in April 2010, was a regional election for regional government.
Yes.
President Salva Kiir, who was then the president of the government of Southern Sudan, was nominated by his party to contest for the presidency of Southern Sudan. And Dr. Lamakol Ajawin, who was then the chairman of the SPLM-DC, contested against Kiir. Kiir won the elections. By that time, as you put it, South Sudan was a region within the Republic of South Sudan. I mean, within the Republic of Sudan, the former unified Republic of Sudan. So Kiir was elected as president when we were still a region within a unified Sudan, not in an independent South Sudan. Now, in the independent South Sudan, on the 9th of July, Dr. James Waniga, who is now the vice president of the Republic, read out what we call the declarations of the independent. And one of the decisions that were made in the parliament is that President Salva Kiir was unanimously voted or tasked or mandated to be the president of the Republic of South Sudan. And he was mandated to build the institutions and prepare the country for election in 2015, as Dr. Peter Biar put it very much clear. So people are mixing up between 2010 April elections and the 2011 election. What I want to say is this: South Sudan, since it's become an independent country in 2011 on 9 July, until now has never witnessed democracy through elections. And I am convinced, and we are all convinced, that South Sudan under President Salva Kiir Mayardit and the first Vice President Dr. Machar Teny will never conduct elections, because they know if they conduct elections, no one will vote for them. Secondly, if some people vote for them, no one would concede the defeat between two of them. And therefore they will fight according to national dialogue. And this is what Peter Biar said during the interview. This one must be made very clear to all South Sudanese. So we have been here talking a lot, saying that elections in South Sudan cannot be the way forward. Not because we are against election. It is because the political atmosphere in the country, the general atmosphere in the country, is not ready for holding general elections. Elections would only take place in the Republic of South Sudan when President Salva Kiir, who is currently the president, and first Vice President Machar are no longer in the political scenes. Then South Sudan would witness fair and free and credible elections. This one also must be made very clear to the people of South Sudan. Democracy will not take place in the time of President Salva Kiir and Vice President Riek Machar. Both are equally guilty, and the verdict is already passed upon them by the people of South Sudan that they have to exit political life so that the country witness a political transition. This one must be made very clear. There are people talking. I saw some comment. They said this. They said people in diaspora talk a lot and there is no action. Somebody put a comment there. I saw it. I would like to tell them that we are here and we talk on this forum. You know, the function of the forum is discussion. The function of any forum is to discuss ideas. So we come here and we share ideas. Mm-hmm. Coming here and talking and sharing ideas does not mean that there is no action. There is an action, and you have all seen Dr. Peter Biar in front of the US Senate talking, advocating for democracy in South Sudan. Is that not an action? Or do you want to tell us that on the day you will see people in the street of South Sudan, that you would begin to believe that there is an action? You know, action starts with words. Actions start with thoughts, then words, then followed by actions. We are now in the process of thoughts, sharing thoughts. We have thoughts, and so we are here talking. Later on, there will be action. There is an action actually going on right now, but we don't want to talk about it here. Correct. So those who are telling us that you just talk and there is no action, I would like to tell them honestly that there is an action. You don't see this, but one day you will see this. You will not only see it, but you will become part of it. You will play your role. So there is time for everything. There is time for everything. It is now time for us to talk. There will come a time when we will not talk here again. You will see us somewhere else doing some other things. So this is what I want to tell those commentators making comment on the video, that you just talk and there is no action. So this one must be very clear. The last thing I want to say, Mr. Jonkor, the debate has to continue. And there are government supporters making a lot of comments under the video that they should be given a chance to weigh in and to share with us what they think, or to counter attack what we are saying. I think you should give them a chance. If you don't mind, you should give them a chance. All right? Because what we do here is a free, democratic, political debate. We say our views as united citizens for change. And others also, if they want to react to what we say, then they should come up and challenge us, and we are ready. We are ready to talk with them. We are ready to discuss with them. Because we are here for discussion. I saw Billy Luke making a lot of comments there. Although Billy Luke is such a young man who is energetic and a good speaker, but his problem is that he does not want to get out of this tribal, he does not want to get out from his tribal cocoon.
And something
he stick to tribalism. And when he see us here talking about national issues, he would want to come in. When he actually talk about tribal issues on his forum, he actually established a forum or founded a forum in the name of community. He called it Ying de Patang. I watch a lot of his shows, and all what he says there, all what he talks about is the Sholo and the land and nothing.
Ustad Dengit, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
if you
go ahead.
You know, the thing is, in this forum, we don't want people to go tribal. And I have been saying this for very long time. I don't want anyone coming here attacking Nuer or attacking Sholo or attacking Zande or attacking this. You know, this is not who we are. And I'm trying as best as I can, you know, to let people refrain from such a thing, because they are polarizing. They are dividing people more and more and more. And I try to discourage such a thing. And that's why you see me sometimes, you know, I try to avoid anyone bringing tribal sentiment to the discussion, because I want you to talk about the national issues. Okay, things that are happening wrong in the country, how can be addressed? But when someone comes with their own tribal, you know, clan thing, issue that are dividing people, I don't accept that seriously. And that's why you are seeing me this way. Some people, they may see that I'm not giving chance to the people, but I do. When you are rational and logic in your thought, and you are making sense with the people of South Sudan. That's what we do. But if someone tried to go tribal, no, it's a no, you see? So, yes, we give opportunity for everybody. And that's why we give opportunity to Chankwa. You know, I told him from the beginning we disagreed. Now, today, he said that for the first time, Jonkor is biased. I don't know how biased I am. how I become biased today, I don't know.
Well, Jonkor Chankwa, I think, is a good guy. His only problem is that he is politically insecure, and he seemed to lack confidence in himself and in our generation, or in members of our generation. That is the only problem of Chankwa. So I told him, I sent him a message earlier that he has to emancipate himself from political confinement and be a free man, a liberal man. Yes, for how long shall we call for Dr. Machar to remain in power? Anyway, I agree with you that this forum should not be tribalized, or no tribal sentiment should be brought here. That is our stand, and I applaud you for that. All right? But I was saying this for the sake of political fairness, that we say our own, and if others would like to come, then they should be allowed. Anyway, thank you very much for that. And hitherto I come to an end, and I thank all the viewers of Concerned Citizens of South Sudan for tuning in tonight to follow us as we share thoughts on establishment of a new political paradigm shift in our new and young Republic of South Sudan. May God bless all of you, and see you next time. Bye.
Well, Ustaz Dengdit, it is an honor to have you always on the program. So phenomenal, you know, with your thought and your contribution always. With that, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in today. And our discussion was the current fiasco in the country and the way toward establishment of new political paradigm shift in South Sudan. We interviewed Dr. Peter Biar Ajak, and those of you who were not part of it, please go ahead and share it to other people who did not attend so it can get more viral and people can listen and watch the thing. As I said, I should be continuing more 4 hours tonight, but because I gotta go, I have to go somewhere. There is a bad news about somebody dying, extended family. So I have to go and visit this family tonight. With that, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for being part of Concerned Citizen of South Sudan. Next week with the new episode, inshallah. See you. Have a good night. Do this.
Bitter and where you may take it in the daily. You I didn't tell you, Dora. They hope they'll take a better human and Pandora. We don't need it from them for the part. If young Cademia, Kala put buying water on away and the can Dora love a Petrol and where you may take it daily. You I didn't tell you, Dora. They hope y'all take a better human again, Pandora. We don't need it from them, you pull apart. Left young, cut them down, Kala put kind water on. The way in the can go, Dora, now it's your day. You over to one Jaldor and good belly cane. You go work at your glow, take a teacher, Pagariam, Amunda Majabut, Dora, Mr. Uncle Chalega. We don't need it, drunk them, you pull apart. Left young, cut them down, Kala put Kai Wakaron, the waiting the can, Dora, no Jande. You are told one Jaldor and good belly cane. You go work at your glow, take a teacher, Pagariam, Amunda Majabut, Dora, Mr. Uncle Chalega. We don't need it from them, you pull apart. Left young, cut them down, Kala put Kai Wakaron, the waiting the can, Dora, no Jande.